Yo, 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 what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking. All right, so real quick, let's get that sound check in. If you guys can hear me, make sure you guys either throw a thumbs up or a radiation emoji in the chat. If you guys cannot hear me and the visualizer is going, just let me know. Put a microphone in the chat or either just put a thumbs down if you guys cannot hear any sound. All right, I want to tell you guys thank you to everybody who watches my streams. Thank you. Thank you to the content creators that collaborate with me and shout me out. Thank you. On Blacklight Revelations 2, we have hit a milestone 3K subs, and I couldn't have done it without each and every one of you all. So shout out to my members, shout out to my subscribers, shout out to my collaborators, my fellow content creators that watch the streams as well. You know what I'm saying? The next stop, I want to get both of these channels to 10K before the end of the year. And I think that we can do that. If you guys think that we can do that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that we can do that, give me a thumbs down. You're safe. Ain't nobody getting blocked. You know what I'm saying? So real quick, I want to give a shout out to everybody that's in the room. Thank you, each and every one of you guys, for being here. We got my man Torian with the congrats on the 3K. Appreciate it, bro. That live or that collab that we did definitely helped get me there. So shout out and thank you to Torian. You know what I'm saying? We got Hey Mr. Knickerbocker in the building. We got my man Kid Gravity in the building. Shout out to Kid Gravity. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the love, bro. We got RG Titan in the building. We got DSB in the house. And we got Roots Trackers in the building. What up with it, Roots Trackers? Good to see you. And we got my man, Mr. Knock, and we got Lowell's Hub. What up with it, Lowell's Hub? So before we get into the Tyre Nichols stuff, we're going to talk about something else really quick. A lot of the conversations that are going on about this are very disingenuous as well as weird. You know what I'm saying? So because the mainstream media is talking about it with a forced discussion, with a constructed discussion, not an actual organic discussion, we're going to actually have an organic discussion. We're going to talk about this in the way that we want to talk about it, in the way that we feel it's necessary to be talked about, and address it in the way that we feel that it needs to be addressed. Because let me ask you guys something. Do you all feel that the way the media is covering this story, it's asking the right questions or touching on the right topics? If you guys think that it is, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. All right. And shout out to the Geek Surgeon. You know what I'm saying? The Geek Surgeon is somebody that always watches Just Talking with TD and Rob, like you guys should. You know what I'm saying? My man Mike Mellis John is in the building. My man Tone is in the house. What up with it, Tone? And we got Ricky McKinney in the house. Tone says no. Yeah, I got to agree with Tone. I don't think that it's been discussed in the way that we need to have it discussed on a large scale for the United States to understand the grievances that we have, which is one of the reasons why we have to take that conversation and put it in our hands and have the conversation amongst ourselves. Okay? Because we're going to look at an article from the New York Times, and we're also going to look at an article from AP. Okay, hopefully we have time. And we're going to talk about those articles and the questions that they're asking. And we're going to say, is this manufactured or is this an actual talking point that needs to be addressed? Okay. Shout out to my man Fantizzi in the building. You know what I'm saying? So how many of you guys heard about this? Police chief has been placed on administrative leave after officers raid a family's house in Galveston, the city announced. You guys heard about that? If you guys heard about that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys didn't hear about it, give me a thumbs down. Let's check this out.
But we do begin with that developing story in Galveston, where the city's police chief has been put on administrative leave. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Sion Rhodes. The city manager today said Chief Doug Bally was placed on a 10-day leave during an internal investigation. It's focusing on a possible failure of communication about a raid at a house on Avenue O during a murder investigation. KPRC2's Devin Clark went to Galveston to get answers.
Now, here's my question. How does this kind of thing always happen? How does this kind of thing happen so much? You know what I'm saying? What if somebody ended up getting killed in this situation? Check this out. What if this raid happened to be on a black person's house? And the black person said, what the hell's going on? And they happen to be a gun owner because that's Texas. And then they start shooting at the police. What would the population at large and Fox News have said? Because at this point, at this juncture in the United States, we damn near may as well say that Fox News and the population at large are the same. Like there's no difference. They're the same. So what do you guys think the immediate narrative on that situation would be if that were to have happened?
Here at the Galveston Police Department, officials are not saying much, but the footage you're about to see points to what's been described as a disturbing sequence of events one family says should have never happened. This home surveillance footage shows the moments Erica Rios and her family were awakened by a Galveston police raid last Sunday morning.
My kids and I were home sleeping.
Now, let me ask you guys something. If that had happened to you all, what would you have done? Does anybody know how they would have reacted had that happened? Shout out to DJ Elmo, and also shout out to Lloyd Sky 9. What up with y'all? And yeah, I agree. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker, Fox represents anywhere between 2/3 and 3/4 minimum of white folks' views. Let me tell it. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. So we could say Fox News, or we could say the population at large. It takes care of more than half. You know what I'm saying? The baseline, quote unquote, American. Did you guys see that?
Surveillance footage shows the moments Erica Rios and her family were awakened by a Galveston police raid last Sunday morning.
My kids and I were home sleeping.
Now, here's my question. What if those people wanted to defend themselves from that police raid? Shout out to my man, JD Informant. What's good with it, bro? What's good with it, Adrian? Look at that. That's kind of wild. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of wild. Unannounced. I mean, you see they had the battering ram.
About 2 a.m., we were awakened by wooden pellets flying through our doors, and also the sounds of Galveston Police Department, come out with your hands up.
You can see them leaving one by one. Officials say they were there looking for a suspect in a January 20th murder, where 25-year-old Malik Dunn was found shot on the 3900 block of Sealy and later died. They say the suspect was a man by the name of Cameron Vargas, who had visited Rios' home but left hours earlier. The Galveston County District Attorney's Office now saying Vargas was misidentified and is not a suspect. And
Uh-oh. Now, this is interesting, right? What I want you guys to pay attention to, it seems like they got this taken care of together pretty quickly, doesn't it? Now, you guys going to hear about this on Fox News? Now, again, here's the question. Let's just get this out in the open here. If the cops busted into that home and the homeowners started dumping, would that be within the realms of being legal? Now, here's another question. Had this family not been some white Latinos, had this been a black family in the exact same situation had it happened, what would everybody be saying right now? That's the question. What would everybody be saying right now?
a statement that partly reads, quote, after the DA's office consulted with Galveston PD, they decided not to move forward with charges against Mr. Vargas, end quote. But the damage for Rios and her family had already been done.
I was scared, screaming. I ended up going to my brother, asking what they were doing, and they continuously kept shooting the wooden pellets.
As Dunn's murder investigation.
So they were shooting wooden pellets into these people's homes. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed that like button, please make sure you guys smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not shared the video out to all of your followers on your social media, please take a moment, share it to Facebook, share it to Twitter. Definitely appreciate it. And also, if you guys haven't subscribed to my backup channels, make sure you guys subscribe to the backup channels.
Continues and officials look for the correct suspect. Rios and her family say they also want justice.
This isn't right for what they have done, and for us to having to pay up for all of this.
The family's attorney, Mark Metzger, declined to comment, but said he is working on the case with Tony Busby. And on Wednesday at 11 a.m., they will be having a press conference outside of Busby's Houston office. At that time, they're going to be discussing the next course of action and also reading statements from the family. Reporting in Galveston, Devin Clark, KPRC 2 News.
So there's that. So what do you guys think about that? Shout out to my man AB Promotions in the building. My man AB Promotions says he didn't get a notification. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a survey in the chat about the notifications. If you guys could do that survey, I would definitely appreciate it. And also, real quick, if you guys got a notification, please give me a thumbs up in the chat. And if you guys did not get a notification, give me a thumbs down. Shout out to my man PD Chicago B1. What up with it, bro? The Confederate Christian is back. So we got 3 resident trolls now. You know what I'm saying? We moving on up in the world. The Confederate Christian says, Weez Bees wants Trump back. Trump has did many amazing things to help the colors. You know what Trump did that was the single best thing that he did as president? And just to make sure, I want everybody to know, especially all of the white people that voted for Trump. He got on record as president of the United States and said that black people built this country. That's what your boy Trump did. You know what I'm saying? I think that might have been the one time that everybody was upset with him. I wasn't. It's probably the one time when I wasn't upset with him. You know what I'm saying? But he said that. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing you can do about it. And you voted for him. So there's that. Now, since the president said that we built this country, how much did we get paid for the construction? Anybody got any figures on that? Conservative Christian, did you pass 5th grade? Are you able to do arithmetic? Let's give a rough estimate about how much money and labor it cost per the president to build this country. So, anybody know who this guy is? This guy right here is an idiot. This is Tadarrius Bean. Okay? Tadarrius Bean is going to have a hard time sitting down for the rest of his life, more than likely. He began his professional police career in 2020. After almost 3 years in the police service, he has dismissed from the force and been charged with a crime. Okay. So now this gives a little bit of a background about who this former officer is. According to NBC News, Tadarrius Bean is currently 24 years old. You guys think he looks 24? How old y'all think he looks? Shout out to Lana. What up with it, Lana? How old do you guys think he is? That's the question. He don't look 24. He looks a little bit older than 24, if you ask me. Tadarrius previously worked at a fast food restaurant in Mississippi. Furthermore, he also reportedly worked for AT&T in Memphis. You know what's crazy? Can I ask you guys a question? Does anybody know where Derek Chauvin or Amber Geiger used to work before they were police? Did they work for Sprint? Did they work for Nextel? Did they work for Allah Audio? You know what I'm saying? Anybody know where any of those guys worked at? UPS? OnlyFans? You know what I'm saying? Tadarrius obtained a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and law enforcement from the University of Mississippi in 2020. He was listed on the 2020 commencement list of the University of Mississippi as Tadarrius Bean, where he was listed as receiving a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Subsequently, he was hired by the Memphis Police Department in Memphis, Shelby County, Tennessee in 2020. Now, what has he been accused of? On January 7th, Tadarrius Bean and his fellow police officers in the Memphis Police Department reportedly caused injuries to Memphis resident Tyre Nichols at a traffic stop, who was pronounced dead on January 10th of 2023. Tadarrius's colleagues involved in the incident were Demetrius Haley, who we know has a record, Emmett Martin III, Desmond Mills Jr., and Justin Smith. Subsequently, Memphis PD Chief Saralyn Davis made a statement saying, "This is not just a professional failing. This is a failing of basic humanity towards another individual. The incident was heinous, reckless, and inhumane." Now, here's my question. When we just looked at that botched raid by the police department in Galveston, did they say any of that? I've never heard a stereotype that we look older. I've always heard the stereotype that we look younger. I've heard a stereotype that, I don't know, like maybe women might be a little bit mature looking, but this is a man I'm talking about. I didn't know that was a stereotype. I thought the stereotype was black don't crack. You know what I'm saying? I think that they just push that narrative just to push that narrative. That when they push that narrative, they use it to attempt to justify the brutal actions that they do and the excessive savage nature in which they tend to treat other people. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Do you think that they say those things because of the appearance? Or do you think that they say those things to attempt to like numb people to the fact that this was actually a child? I don't think it's appearance based. I think it's more propaganda based. But you definitely have a point though, hey, Mr. Knickerbocker. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Shatera. What up with it? Yeah, I agree, Shatera. So they just flat out lied about Tamir Rice's age. And yeah, I agree. I agree, Tone. They're laying it on thick for the black police officers. Now, I watched the video that Lisa Cabrera did about this Tadarrius Bean, and it talked about how he was in a fraternity, and that fraternity got in a lot of trouble for doing some weird hazing. Shout out to 1111. What up with it? Yeah, I can see your message, Catsy. You guys able to see Catsy's messages? My bad, they moving kind of fast, so if I'm missing people, I apologize. In the vein of transparency, when this video is released in the coming days, you will see for yourself. So we know all of this stuff, and they didn't really go into Tadarrius Bean's background, which is interesting. You know what I'm saying? So here's the thing. I want to know what questions you all have, because ABC has a list of questions, and let's see how good of a job the media is doing with being consistent with the questions that we might be interested in. There's a 7-minute video on here too, and I just want to make sure real quick. Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure when I go through this that it doesn't have a video of the body cam footage, because I think that it's really good that a lot of people are protesting in that way. I think that it's good that people aren't watching the videos. Honestly, I think that the families should stop allowing the body cam videos to be shown. And I also think that any news agency that monetizes these body cam videos, they should send the money back to the family. I don't think that it's fair for ABC and CNN and MSNBC and Fox to make all of this money watching a black person get mutilated And in many cases, the families have a difficult time with funeral expenses and different things like that. I think that that's BS. I think that the family should have a choice whether they want it shown on TV or not. Shout out to my man Solo. What up with it, bro? Yeah, I agree, B1 first. I'm interested in what they're going to do about the infiltration of anti-black racists. Yeah, me too. We've actually gone over that FBI report that showed the evidence of the infiltration of anti-black racists into the police department. And most of it was redacted, believe it or not. Most of it was redacted. So now the title of this article is Tyre Nichols, What the Footage Reveals and Questions That Remain. So I want you guys to put your questions in the comment section. Think of some questions that you guys have. And as we're reading this, let's see if they answer the questions that we have. You know, one of the main questions that everybody is asking, what's going on with the white cops that were tasing him? Another question is, why is this being handled in this way? Right? The other question is, what's the guarantee that this will happen when it's white cops doing it? That's the question. Now, what I find fascinating is, like I said, it's always good to have a troll, right? Because the trolls represent the population at large. And this is actually what the population at large in the Fox News crowd, conservative crowd, this is what they think. They actually think that it's not white cops who mistreat the quote unquote colored, which I don't know who the quote unquote colored are, because the only people that change multiple colors are white people. So I don't know who the coloreds are. You know what I'm saying? We tend to stay the same color. White people can go from different ranges of blues, greens, and reds. But for some reason, they're not called the coloreds. It's the coloreds who mistreat the coloreds. Colored on coloreds crime. Okay. So this is what they think. Okay. Despite the fact that these people think that they have the best family structure, and in many cases, they put their entire families in a casket. And then a lot of times they delete themselves after they do that, which would be pale on pale crime. You know what I'm saying? So this is what they think, that it's not white cops who mistreat the colored. Now, let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to instances of police violence, how many times have we seen white police officers execute black suspects on the spot? How many times have we seen black police officers execute black suspects on the spot? That's the question. You guys got an answer for me? Let me know. Are we back in the 60s? The colored, yeah, we back in the 60s. We back in the 60s. This guy is back in the 1800s, though. He must have took that Ron DeSantis history class. He thinks that the rebels didn't get their asses beat. The only thing that flag is good for is the paint job on the Dukes of Hazzard car. Any other time, it's nothing more than a laughing stock that doesn't appreciate or pay dividends.
This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, David Muir.
Good evening again, everyone. We're coming back on the air briefly here after what has already been a very difficult day in Memphis. That community and the country is now getting the first look at that disturbing police body camera video of what authorities say is the police beating of Tyre Nichols following a traffic stop near his home 20 days ago. As we've been reporting, he died of his injuries in the hospital 3 days later. The Nichols family and police have been pleading for peaceful protests while recognizing the anguish and outrage among so many, hoping that preparing the community would in some way help here. Now, the video coming in now, it is very difficult, and we're going to not show very much of this.
So I'm gonna scroll past this part. I don't. Again, we need to ask the question: why is it that they keep showing this? Okay. I mean, like, think about that. You know how we're never supposed to forget 9/11? How often do they show footage of 9/11 and people falling out of buildings and jumping and planes hitting that building? How many times do they show that? Do they show that repeatedly on a 24-hour loop? What about the body cam footage from when any white person is brutalized by the police? Do you guys recall seeing any? So now one of the reasons that we have to start doing these type of videos is because we have to start asking the mainstream media, the Democrat media, why do you continue to show videos of your voters getting deleted? The Democrats want you to vote for them, but they keep showing pictures of you getting deleted as well as making money off of it. Let me ask you guys a question. Ever since this Tyre Nichols thing happened, how much money do you guys think that the mainstream media has made off of it? I mean, this is what's been keeping the lights on, right? At the news. How much money do you guys think they made off of this? They've been playing this on a 24-hour loop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I agree. If you guys agree with Torian, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. A lot of money. Now, here's my question. Out of all of that money showing this, I mean, just imagine this, right? What if we didn't have TVs and they just showed the body all the time? I just want to show you the body. Do you think that his parents are okay with this? If this was somebody that was your family member, would you want them to be paraded all over the place? I don't think most people would. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker says they don't want to normalize white death. I agree. They also don't want white people to not be outraged when they see another white person harmed. That's supposed to immediately spark outrage. White people are so sensitive, they get upset with over movie roles. Could you imagine if they showed white people constantly getting harmed by the police? You guys remember white people's reaction about Ukraine? How many people remember the fragile white reaction to Ukraine? If anybody remembers the fragile white reaction to Ukraine, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys don't, give me a thumbs down. This is Europe. Oh, man, the racism was accidentally just oozing out of the funky pores, wasn't it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, this isn't Saudi Arabia. This isn't Ethiopia. This isn't Somalia. This is Europe. Yeah, this is Europe. War culture. This is Europe, the place where every single quote unquote world war took place, because, you know, when it comes to them, they have such a grandiose complex that the world only comprises of Europe to them. That's why it's called the World War, or either because they dragged everybody into it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know what I'm saying? They wouldn't be able to handle that. We're not able to handle it either, but we're forced to deal with it. I think that's an evolution on people's part. Yeah, in facts, DJ Elmo. Remember that? These are blonde, blue-eyed babies. Remember that? These are white Europeans dying. Man, it was just coming out. They had to do a whole retake on it. Man, that Ukraine war really exposed the sensitivity and fragility. You know what I'm saying? It really exposed it. So based on looking at the Ukraine situation, we already know that these people are too emotionally fragile and too weak to be able to handle this. Yeah, their babies matter, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it takes a lot of at-bats and attempts to make one for them. You know what I'm saying? You know, we can just give each other a hug and have an entire family. They got to put in work. They got to burn some calories. They got to take all kind of shots and medicines. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to do that. So, you know what I'm saying? I get it. You got, when it's that difficult to come across, you got to value it, I guess. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They made a whole world domination plan and supremacy system for that very reason. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I can rationalize with it. The value of life, that is. not the grandiose complex that is turned into a tyrannical, insane dictatorship that needs to be destroyed. You know what I'm saying? So let's continue. White people wouldn't be able to handle watching a white person get maraudered like this. That's the conclusion that we've come up with. So the question then is if we're all in this together as human beings, then what we have to do is ask the question, well, why do they feel we want to see this all the time? Why do we want to see it all the time? Let that question marinate.
Again, he was being pulled out of the car, and obviously we had to bleep some of the audio there. But that was the moment he got pulled from the car initially after the stop. Now, the next video is of Nichols on the ground being pepper sprayed, calling out for his mother. Here it is.
Oh, shit. Hold on. Hold on.
You want to get sprayed?
Now, do you see? Like, I want you guys to pay attention to this. You can't even watch this video without them like just putting in parts and pieces, edit ins. Like they want to force you to watch it.
Video, 67 minutes worth, multiple police body cameras. Tyre Nichols' family has already viewed the images earlier this week, saying that it showed the officers brutally beating their son. His mother was unable to watch. She had to leave the room. The officers fired, now charged with second-degree murder, among other charges as well. And they had claimed that he was initially pulled over for alleged reckless driving before running from the car. The police chief, though, saying so far they have found no proof that he should have been stopped.
So it was an unlawful stop. So now if he shouldn't have been pulled over, he had every right to resist, right? Yeah, I don't want to show it. Deneen, most people have said that they don't want to see it, and I don't want to inadvertently like put that on somebody. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't slip in between the cracks. Cameron, I don't know. That's a good question, though. Yeah, I agree, DSB. And I think, 1111 said that too. They want us to fear. Do you guys agree with 1111 and DSB that they want us to fear? If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. And real quick, shout out to my man, Media Engagement Solutions. What's up with it, bro? Good to see you in here, fam. Yeah, torture porn at this point. Facts, JB Easy. I think that one thing that people should start doing is making an effort to establish to these people that we don't want the harm of us advertised for revenue. People should really start boycotting the mainstream media, especially the liberal media. People always, when Kyrie Irving was having his issues, they said boycott Nike. You know what I mean? When Kanye was having his issues, people were saying to boycott Adidas and Balenciaga. But what I find fascinating is that despite the fact that the mainstream media stabs us in the back all of the time and makes money, literal body capital, blood money. This is literal blood money off of somebody's beaten and battered child. And they've done this multiple times. Nobody has said boycott the mainstream media. We don't need the mainstream media anymore. So if the mainstream media is not doing what it is that we need them to do, which is, for one, honestly report, and two, not attempt to program us with nonsense, why do people still watch it? I think that that's one of the campaigns that people need to start doing. A movement that tells people to boycott the media. Now, let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to politics, right? If people were diverted away from the media and directed to Black media, would it be more easy for us to control our narrative? Would it be more easy for people to know exactly what kind of voting people need to do? Would it be a lot easier to send a unified message of what people's idea of being on code is as far as behavior, culture, and politics? If you guys think that it would, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that it would, give me a thumbs down. One thing that we need to do is we need to eliminate the mainstream media. You know what I'm saying? And when I say eliminate the mainstream media, I don't necessarily mean, one day the building is there, the next day it's not. What I mean is eliminate the knee-jerk reaction to utilize mainstream media for your information sources. The mainstream media is not credible. You should get credible information that's geared towards not only your interests, but your objectives. And one thing most of us don't want to see is somebody like us getting marauded. We have an entire history of that went on in this country that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. The fact that it exists and is true. So we could kill 3 birds with 1 stone if we got on a unified effort to get people to move away from the mainstream media. Get these families, hey, if something happens, you reach out to a Black media creator. Give them the interview first. All these interviews, they should come to, TBA or Tariq Nasheed or African Diaspora Channel, TD Hip Hop Media, Torian. Shit, Harvey, Nicole's View. You know what I'm saying? Lisa Cabrera. You know what I'm saying? Those are the people that need to be having these conversations with these families. If those families, because see, this is the Democrat media's bread and butter. The Democrat media's bread and butter is to push politics through Black trauma. So we could really kick the legs out from them and put them on crutches if these families do not go to them first. If they come to us, Runaway Slave, I got to check out Runaway Slave, Donnie Side. What up with it, by the way, bro? DJ Elmo says, you never know who is listening to Black independent media. The actress Tancia Arnold listens to hip hop media and probably you as she bogged up to TD. Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, Lisa Cabrera got a great channel. You know what I'm saying?
FBI Director Christopher Wray saying he watched the video and was, quote, appalled by it. Those 5 former police officers now facing several charges, including murder: Justin Smith, Desmond Mills Jr., Emmett Martin III, Demetrius Haley, and Tadarrius Bean. Attorneys for Mills and for Martin have said they will plead.
Now, here's my question. How many people knew that all 5 are out on bond? Oh, wait. Pam from Martin? You talking about? That's wild. You guys, when you got celebrities watching you, that's dope.
Not guilty. The White House says President Biden has not yet seen the video, but he did speak to the family. He offered his condolences, commending their, quote, courage and strength. I want to bring in Stephanie Ramos. She's live in Memphis tonight. Stephanie, they have...
Look, hey, Carlton said DJ Elmo was talking about Pam from the show Martin. Bruh man watched my channel. Now what? Matter of fact, when I came in the studio this morning to get everything together, bruh man was sitting in my damn chair. I was like, bruh man, I got a stream right now. The hell you doing here? Nah, Just chill. I usually had a crib to myself around this time. I was like, get out. Get out. You know what I'm saying? Then I went in the fridge and my cranberry juice was gone. Yeah, bro, man, from the 5th floor. Then he holds up 4 fingers. The 4-finger discount. You know what I'm saying? You can't take the door. Nah, I'll take the fire escape. You know what I'm saying? He didn't take the fire escape. You know what I'm saying?
Have been urging calm. We're getting reports of some protests already, which of course was expected.
Absolutely, David. The people here in Memphis are upset. They're upset over this video. This 29-year-old man, unarmed.
So let's check this out, right? Look at this. Look at this, though. Do you know this dude, bro, man, had the nerve to ask me whose computer this is? Man, I came in the studio. He had his feet all up on the table. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I went in here and slapped his feet down off the table. I was like, man, what are you doing? He said, oh, I wasn't supposed to do that. This computer, y'all. Let me buy. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, bruh, get to stepping.
Stopped by police, and then, as we can see in that video, beaten on the ground until he's unconscious, as you said, dying 3 days later. And we heard from Tyre Nichols' family earlier today, his mother, understandably emotional, wiping away tears and urging for peace, saying that if there are protests here in Memphis or across the country, she was asking for them to be.
One thing that I think that these families should stop doing is I think that the family should just completely not acknowledge any questions about the protests. I think that going forward, people should answer questions about the protests the same way the police supervisors couldn't control their precinct. I can't control what the public does, and then just leave it at that. Just leave it at that. What do you guys think? Because if you ask me, all these talks of protests is nothing more than a punking tactic. It's like, yeah, we just did this to you, but you're not going to do anything about it, right? I think that what should end up happening is there should be a little bit of suspense. Donnie, that's a good point. That's a good point, Donnie. Donnie says they can't, because condemning the protests is probably in their lawsuit clauses. That's interesting. That's a great point. And I wonder if that's true. DJ almost says Jason Whitlock gaffe was to cause a distraction and gender war. I saw some black channels discussing the single mom gaffe instead of WS. Yeah, I know. I saw a thumbnail for a video that said black men blame black women for Tyre Nichols' death. And I'm like, I didn't know. I know Jason Whitlock is big. I mean, I know that the guy is the size of a small moon. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know that he was quote unquote black men. I didn't know that. But sure, thumbnail of that particular video. You know what I'm saying? Most videos that I saw addressing the Jason Whitlock comment was addressing how much of a trash comment that was and how much of a garbage take that it was and how he lied and slandered on that woman. And what I found most interesting about the people making content about it who had that angle was most of them were men. But apparently black men blamed single black women for for Tyre Nichols' death. And man, they just, we get blamed for everything by them. I'm okay. I don't recall blaming black women for Tyre Nichols' death. I didn't know one black man was black men. See, when I went to school, I know they changed math to Common Core, but when I went to school, one particular person was one man. Men is plural. At least that's what I was taught. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what these people were taught, but apparently those people were taught something different. One man is men to them. You know what I'm saying?
Peaceful. Again, we are seeing them here tonight. So far, not violent. But as you mentioned, Tyre Nichols' mother saying that she hasn't been able to watch that video, says she hasn't been able to grieve the loss of her son. And it's just devastating for her to know that he was calling out for her just a few yards away from their home. David.
Now, I have a question. Why is the news so fixated on the fact that he was calling for her? Do you guys find it strange that the news always seems to have a weird fascination with that? And if you ask me, the reason why they have such a fascination with that is because they really, really enjoy the pain and the trauma. And they want to, what they want to do is they want people to relive those moments. Now, the thing is that what people need to understand is that this is a new generation of people. There is literally nobody in the world, no one. Well, maybe let me stop. There's no foundational Black Americans, ADOS freemen, who are intimidated by the animal instinct of racism in 2023. No one is scared. You know what I'm saying? You know, back in the day, people would be all weird and nobody cares anymore. And I think that that's what people need to start showing. People need to start showing that. That is one of the ways that the Democrats attempt to psychologically control the way that Black people provide them votes. They try to show stuff like this. Do you ever notice that they do this on the liberal media to show stuff like this? Well, you better do this or else white people will do this to you. That's why you get your power tools. Well, they better leave me alone or else I'll do this to them. You ever heard one of them rap songs? Spin the block. You know what I'm saying? So they're losing control, right? They're losing control of how they control and monetize fear. So the next logical step is for them to lose control of the media. They don't need your eyes, man. Let me ask you guys a question. What has the mainstream media done to earn your viewership? Have they given you any information that has made your life significantly better? Or have they given you information that has not done anything for you? What do you guys think? Give me an honest answer to that question. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have not smashed that like button, please take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice and share the video out to your social media.
Stephanie Ramos from Memphis at this hour. Stephanie, thank you. We should point out that Ben Crump, the attorney for the family, earlier today, as you look at the peaceful protests out of Memphis at this hour, earlier today, Ben Crump said it doesn't matter if the officer is a Black officer, a Hispanic officer, or a white officer. It is the culture that allows them to think they can do this to Tyre.
So he says it's the culture that allows them to think that they can do this to Tyre. Now, what culture is that? What culture is that? See, I think that brings up a good discussion. What culture are we talking about? See, because it's interesting, Ben Crump didn't mention that, right? He said it's the culture, but he didn't go into detail. Now, my question is, why do you guys think that he didn't go into detail? Donnie says that's a trigger word. Culture can mean anything. I agree. Lana says WS. I think that he's alluding to WS. Shout out to Val. What up with it, Val?
Those words from Ben Crump. I want to bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, for his thoughts on what you've seen, Pierre, play out here in Memphis tonight.
David, I've had the opportunity to be out with police on numerous law enforcement actions. It's clear that this is not police work. This is brutal. And law enforcement officials today, in charging these men with second-degree murder and also kidnapping, think about that, kidnapping. They're essentially saying they took this man against his own will. And to see him punched and beaten and tased repeatedly, again, this does not resemble anything that is legitimate law enforcement work. And I can tell you tonight, law enforcement across this country in cities, major cities across this country, are hoping that the pain that the people in Memphis are feeling and in cities across this country, that they can use it constructively to peacefully protest for change. In many cities, police.
Now, here's my question. How many times have we heard this? So this particular strategy, right, clearly doesn't work. Every single time something like this happens, we're literally expected to do the same thing. Let me ask you guys a question. Every time there's a case of police violence, does the media urge the people to do the exact same thing? Or have they ever said, well, why don't you try something different? So now my question is, if we're remedying the problem with the same attempted solution, the same attempted resolution, should we be expecting a change? And would you guys say, well, wait a minute, if I sit back and think about this, they've been telling us to do the same thing every time something like this happens, and we've been doing it, and it hasn't been changing. Could the reason why it hasn't been changing be because we've been doing the same thing this entire time? What do you guys think?
Police, unfortunately, are viewed as the occupying force. This will only reinforce that. David, I spoke with a very senior law enforcement official tonight who is aware of this video, and he said this could set law enforcement back for many years, that the notion that they're there to protect and serve is destroyed by images like this, David.
I mean, how many images does it take? Set them back to win.
Enforcement official tonight who is aware of this video, and he said this could set law enforcement back for many years, that the notion that they're there to protect and serve is destroyed by images like this, David.
I mean, why is it not destroyed already? Fury Griffith says they are blowing this up because the cops are black and just in time for Black History Month. I agree. I don't know if you guys saw my little videos that I did, but I alluded to that in the videos that I did a couple days ago. I agree 110%. And that right there is where the element of the racism comes in. Not only the fact that, you know, the police officers are victims of white supremacist brain damage and think that they can go around and do the same thing as their white counterparts on the police force and then turn around and get shown that the world is correct. But in addition to that, they're getting treated different than white police officers who do the exact same thing and have been doing it for generations. Shout out to N Major. What up with the N Major? Black to Black says the mainstream media will try to bury the Asian crimes and loop this story right in February. Yeah, I agree 100%. 100%. And they'll also use this with the Asian narrative to say, well, Asian people want to police their own. You'll start seeing those kind of articles and opinion pieces coming out pretty soon as well.
And Pierre, you and I were talking earlier.
Because they're trying to create a reason to be able to legally, socially isolate Black people from the rest of the population. And what's going on now is a narrative is being ran that Black people just can't be at equilibrium anywhere with any other people, including between men and women, which is one of the reasons why you see YouTube giving such an algorithmic boost to gender war content, because it has to be a constant 24-hour narrative of Black people cannot inhabit spaces with other people. So we should be able to socially use legislation to restrict their access to other people, because we're going in reverse. You know what I'm saying? We're going in reverse. And what they're going to do is they're going to try to do that and not say that it's based on racism. They're going to do that and say that it's based on evidence shown in society. You see what I'm saying? Shout out to my man Mind Games Uncut. What up with it, bro? Yep.
Today on this notion, before we go here, on this notion of what Ben Crump said, that it does not matter the color of your skin, whether you're a Black officer, Hispanic officer, white officer, that this, in their words.
So what I want you guys to pay very close attention to is that the narrative on Fox when Stephen A. Smith was on there, the narrative on Fox when Jason Whitlock was on there, and now the narrative on ABC, what they're quoting from Ben Crump is that this isn't a race issue. Police violence isn't a race issue. Do you guys see that? If you guys see that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't see that, give me a thumbs down.
Is brutality, this awful police beating that now is being seen by so many people. But he also said, given the speed with which authorities acted in this case, that he and the family.
Deneen brings up an excellent point. Deneen says, we didn't see a single picture of the crime scene for those murders in Idaho. Only pictures of them smiling and loving life. Facts. Super facts. And that's something that we need to start paying attention to as we examine these crimes. What about all the familicides? How many familicide videos have you guys seen on this channel and on the Crimecast channel? All of those crime reports, you never see any pictures of the crime scene. You never see it. Yeah, I think a lot of people have brought up the white officer, including Tyre Nichols' dad. Somebody said that there was 2 white officers. Notice how the news is also not asking the questions about why do you think this is being expedited so quickly? How come the news isn't asking that question? Why is this being handled differently? Why did the Scorpion unit get disbanded? It's interesting.
Family hopes that this now will be the blueprint moving forward in other cases like this, where there exists extreme and graphic police body cam.
Where there exists extreme and graphic police body cam. How about where there's white officers doing it? All of the body cam footage is always sick. What about when there's white police officers doing this? So again, this basically validates what I had said before about what this shows is that they will punish Black police officers for getting out of pocket, but they will not punish white police officers for harming you. So now you know what it actually is that these police officers are getting punished for. They're not getting punished for harming Tyre Nichols. They're getting punished for going out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys show some love. Throw some radiation emojis in the chat. We got Lloyd Sky 9, the first person on the board with the $10 super chat. My man says the algorithm is the collective Caucasian consciousness at work. AI will be no different. Time to support and tool up. I agree 110%. And if you guys haven't checked out any of my old content, I would advise you guys check out the post-supremacy era playlist. You know what I'm saying? Check out the post-supremacy era playlist on both my channels, on Black Light Revelations 1 and on this one. So now we're going to go down here real quick and just look through here. They got all this about the video. Now, this is what I want to concentrate on. Remaining questions, okay? So I want you guys to pay very close attention. And what I want you guys to do is, if you are missing questions or you think that a question is stupid or they didn't ask a question, make sure that you guys put the question in the comment section so that we can see what it is that they're missing. So now here it says the footage has helped answer questions about what happened that night, in particular for Nichols' family. His mother, Ro Vaughn Wells, said that police initially told her that her son had been tased and pepper sprayed, though the extent of his injuries in the hospital indicated that something more violent happened. So according to the mom, the police initially lied to her, okay? For his stepfather, Rodney Wells, the video justifies that Nichols was no threat to the officers. The footage also raises questions about the incident, including what led up to Nichols being pulled over. It's unclear what led up to the traffic stop in the first place and why officers responded so aggressively. Now, here's my thing. They're the Scorpion unit that were assigned for specific tasks. One of those tasks wasn't traffic stops. So why was the Scorpion unit all over a traffic stop? That's one of the questions that I would ask. Right? Does that make any sense? So now here it says the first video is from the vantage point of an officer arriving at the scene as Nichols is being pulled out of his car while stopped at a red light. In the fourth video, as officers recounted the traffic stop, one alleged that Nichols nearly drove into oncoming traffic, while another claimed that Nichols swerved and nearly hit his car while he was attempting to pull him over. So now my question is, are we going to see the video of him driving? If there's overhead cameras, we should be able to see that stuff, right? Police said that he was pulled over for reckless driving through Memphis Police Chief Sarah Lynn Davis said she had been unable to substantiate that. So the police chief said that she can't substantiate the claims of him driving recklessly. Torian says word on the street is that allegedly, Tyre was messing around with one of the officer's girlfriend's wife. If that was the case, this was personal. Wasn't there a personal connection between Derek Chauvin and George Floyd too? Didn't they work at the same club or something like that? It seems like a lot of times when it comes to these targeted incidents of extreme brutality, there's a personal connection a lot of times. They attacked him like a hit squad. Again, that's the reason why I keep asking the question. The Scorpion unit, how many times do the Scorpion unit pull people over for traffic stops? Like, if you work narcotics, do you pull people over for traffic stops? How many times do they pull people over for traffic stops in training day? You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't do that. Special units don't usually pull people over. When the last time you got pulled over by the SWAT team for driving left of center? You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, I do believe that the stop itself was very questionable. Davis told ABC News George Stephanopoulos during an interview on Friday on Good Morning America. We have been unable to verify the reckless driving allegation, probably because these guys aren't traffic cops. Probably because these guys aren't traffic cops. You guys see DJ Elmo put the link to the post supremacy playlist in the chat. Make sure you guys check that playlist out. What's interesting about the post supremacy era playlist is that that playlist was compiled about a year or two ago, and literally everything is coming true as we're watching it. How many people were around when I was doing the streams about the post-supremacy era and the system of illegitimacy? If you guys were around back then, give me a thumbs up. Now, out of those streams that we did back then and all the discussions that we had, how much of that stuff have you seen come true? MC007 says, I would like to know what happened before that stop because these officers took that stop personally. Yeah, I agree. I agree they did. So now here it says, will more charges be filed? I mean, whatever. Why was the first aid response so long? That's a good question. Why was the first aid response so long? It appears that roughly 20 minutes lapsed between the ending of the beating and the officer's first attempts to render aid to Nichols as he sat and lied on the ground. EMTs are not visible in the video until more than 22 minutes after the end of the beating. Nichols was hospitalized in critical condition after complaining of shortness of breath during the arrest, police said. The Memphis Fire Department said that 2 employees involved in the initial patient care of Nichols were removed from duty last week while the agency conducts an investigation into his death. How many people knew about that? And the thin red line is just a complement to the thin blue line. Firemen, EMTs, all of those quote unquote blue collar workers, they're all your basic everyday Fox News watching moron. So the EMTs were probably under the impression that Tyre Nichols was just a troublemaker and he was probably high on drugs and it just was what it was and we'll take our time because that's what they do. They treat black people like that even when you go to the ER. You could have the best health insurance in the world and they treat you like you're crazy if you go to the ER. Then when you talk to them crazy back, they call the police as if that's going to do anything. So now here it says the fire department updated Friday that it was reviewing the footage and plans to continue its investigation until early next week. So, and then it says what were the roles of the officers charged. All right. So that's the end of that. All right. So now this is interesting. Okay. Everybody has done a review basically on that CNN opinion piece that Van Jones wrote. How many people heard that opinion piece that Van Jones wrote on CNN talking about race? The New York Times has one too. And I find it interesting because I'm trying to figure out what kind of complex conversation on race and policing would the Tyre Nichols beating open up for people at the New York Times? So this is a white conversation about race, all right? That's what this should be called, a discussion. This is a discussion piece. White people discussing black behavior, because this isn't a conversation about race and policing. This is the white media telling you their perception of what's going on, and we're supposed to accept this as if it's everybody's perception. This isn't a conversation. This is an essay. This isn't a dialogue. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this. Okay? We're going to talk about this. Tyre Nichols beating opens a complex conversation on racing and police. I disagree with that. You can't open up a complex conversation on race and policing when that conversation has already been open for centuries. White people have been ignoring that conversation for centuries. You see how Eurocentric this nonsense is? It's the same thing as the world wars. Europe is at war, and they're saying the entire world is at war. Well, we see this on TV. See, what opened white people's eyes up about policing is that some black police officers beat a black person. So now it's time to open up this complex conversation about race and policing. What's so complex about it for white people? That there was no white people involved? There was white people involved. Is that what the white people are going to be talking about here? What happened to those other 2 white people? What is this? Because this isn't a conversation, and it's not a conversation about something that hasn't been being talked about. So what this does is that this proves that the white media is deaf to black issues. They don't pay attention to anything that we say, which is one of the reasons why people should stop watching the white media. Because if the white media doesn't pay attention to anything you say, then why say anything to them at all? Anytime you watch it, they're never going to be addressing anything that's a concern of yours. This is a conversation that's been going on for God knows how long. NWA made songs about this. KRS-One made songs about this. And all of a sudden, when it comes to white people, because some black cops beat up a black person, now it's time to have a complicated, complex conversation on race and policing. You're a couple hundred years late. And just because the New York Times and Jeffrey Bezos' head that looks like a tan-colored egg decides to post it in his propaganda media doesn't mean that it's legitimate. It's not. You're late. This shows the numbness and heartlessness and lack of empathy on the rest of the population at large. Remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wanted to get down and dirty to a Dr. Dre song, is part of the party that was working to silence NWA when they were making songs about topics like this. And now the New York Times wants to sit here and talk about we're opening up a complex conversation. You're not opening up anything. You're not opening up anything except for a can of worms. So this is white people talking to white people about race and policing because black police beat up a black person. It took here's what the conversation should be about. White people are so privileged that it took a black police officer to beat up a black person and kill them for white people to realize there's an issue with policing. That's what it should be titled. This title is dishonest. Right. I want, oh man, Donnie side facts. Donnie said black people are still stuck thinking, quote unquote, they don't get it. They absolutely do get it. That's like saying Nikola Tesla doesn't understand electricity. Saying that white people don't understand racism, that's like saying Nikola Tesla doesn't understand electricity. Oh, Nikola Tesla, he can't even get a light bulb turned on. What are you talking about? Racism is to white people as electricity is to Nikola Tesla. You know what I'm saying? You do understand it. There's no way. White people have designated IQ designations for other races of people, and they've designated that black people have the lowest IQs. So there's no way that the people that white people have designated, the people with the lowest IQs, can understand something that they allegedly can't understand. There's another thing that white people tend to not understand. They don't understand what happens when they blank out and delete their entire families either. So basically what it is that I don't understand means that I don't want to deal with it. That's the English interpretation of I don't understand. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand what happened. What about Jerry Jones when he was at that protest? I don't understand. I was curious. How do you know everything but you're curious? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? What's there to be curious about if you know everything? These are the smartest people in the world, allegedly, that know every single thing ever. So if you know everything, there's no reason to be curious because you're a walking human Google. So what are you curious about? How curiosity is impossible if you're omnipotent. You know what I'm saying? Right? Let me ask you guys a question. I don't believe in this, right? And you guys know that. But the way people perceive God is that God is all-knowing and omnipotent. What would God be curious about if God knows everything? Like, the concept of curiosity wouldn't exist. The concept of I don't know wouldn't exist. You know what I'm saying? But it does when they want to skirt responsibility. So now here it says the 5 officers charged with the murder of the young black man are also black, complicating the anguish and efforts at police reform. I don't understand how. Now pay very close attention. Because they're black, it complicates the anguish and effort at police reform. None of the police reform initiatives were race specific. You know how they always talk about, well, we can't give you guys an anti-FBA, anti-ADOS, anti-Freedmen hate crime bill because that's race specific, and that would be prejudice. Anything that anybody has asked for involving the police has never been race specific. Nobody's ever said stop hiring white people to be police officers. Nobody ever said stop hiring Latinos to be police officers. So why would the police officers being black complicate the anguish and efforts when the complaints are about the police? The incidents of white police violence are higher, but the complaints have always been about the police, which includes any police. Black police, like these guys. Women, like Kim Potts and Amber Geiger. Asians, like Officer Stephen Q. So again, pay attention to what the media is doing. Remember, you have to decode these. Tyre Nichols' beating opens up a complex conversation on race and policing. What this actually means is Tyre Nichols' beating opens up an opportunity to confuse the conversation on race and policing. Because that's what they're looking to do. Because remember, we're running a campaign of maximum sophisticated confusion. If your brain is working properly, you're an enemy of this system. So that means that you have to be confused at all times. So everything that we do in the media is going to be something that doesn't clarify anything. It cloudies everything up. Because there's nothing complicated about this. Fury Griffith says, my thoughts are, where did they get the signs to protest? I have no idea, but I bet you the Pritzker family might know. MC007 says, you didn't hear the Congressional Black Circus say anything about a black protection bill. And you know what's fascinating? I didn't hear the Black Congressional Caucus say anything about this particular incident at all. Have you guys heard them say anything? I haven't heard them say anything about this at all. So MC007 was asking about the picket signs, and there they go. Look at that, all nicely typed. Some of them even have cursive writing and italics. Notice how in this video here, the white guy is in front with the megaphone. Anybody notice that? Here go a real picket sign, this cardboard one with Tyre spray painted on it. This is the only legitimate picket sign. These are all laminated and nice and printed off like some business card manufacturer printed these up. So now here it says the killing of Tyre Nichols, a 29-year-old black man in Memphis at the hands of police, has prompted outrage and condemnation from quote-unquote racial justice activists, police reform activists, and law enforcement officials, including the chief of Memphis Police Department, quote-unquote, a black woman who was lobbied for police changes in the wake of George Floyd's murder. You guys see that? So now what they're doing is they're pivoting, right? And saying, well, look, this is what we did for you. You see, they're doing the this is what we did for you thing. You know what I'm saying? The fact that the 5 officers charged with Nichols' murder are black complicates the anguish. How does it complicate? Now, remember, this is white. This is the white media saying that this complicates things for black people. Now, this is a black guy here, Clyde McGrady. So according to Clyde McGrady, the fact that the officers are black complicates the anguish. Here's my question. Does this complicate any anguish for you guys? And shout out to Val for answering the Nightbot. Let me ask you guys, is anybody here confused about anything about this particular incident? Shout out to OG Patrice. What up with it, OG? Is there anybody that's confused about any element of this? Freedom Queen says no. RG Titan says no. Yeah, I don't think anybody here is confused. And I think one of the reasons why you guys aren't confused is because you all get a lot of your information not from the mainstream media. You all get a lot of your information from independent media, which means that if you get your information from independent media, you have to critically think and also look up your own sources. So you all are pretty well versed in information. So again, this is a white media, white conversation. Again, when it comes to the police, that's what the complaint has always been. The complaint has always been against the police. So what we're going to do now is we're going to act like black people have been covering for black police officers this entire time. I mean, you know, this is just a new thing. I mean, this is just bizarre. I mean, it's 2023 and we now have a new problem. We now have this new problem of black police on black citizen violence. That's not a new problem. Again, what this only shows, again, this is just evidence of white obtuseness. It's the same thing as white people going around saying fake news is the best creation Donald Trump ever created. Except for the fact that Malcolm X was saying it before him, back when they were talking about Malcolm X, calling him a socialist and a Marxist, the same way they do about any black person that says some stuff that they don't like today. Again, we're going to act like KRS never made a song called Black Cop. Again, we're going to act like NWA, Ice Cube never made those songs and sang those verses. I mean, I'm sure the government knows that they did because the government tried to cancel NWA. They tried to illegally use Dr. Dre's music. I mean, how do you go from trying to cancel somebody to illegally using their music? Right. They would have said Malcolm X was a Russian bot. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says it also has brought into focus what many black people have said is frequently lost in police brutality cases involving white officers and black victims, that the problems of race and policing are a function of an entrenched police culture of aggression and dehumanization of black people more than interpersonal racism. Yeah, this is a bunch of babble. The problem of policing is the white supremacist culture and everything that comes along with white supremacist culture. White supremacist culture has a bunch of tentacles. White supremacist culture comes with racism. The opposite of racism is black self-hate. Black self-hate is a black person carrying white anti-black sentiments about themselves. Another tentacle of white supremacy is cooning, which are black people that hate themselves and want to work for white people, deconstructing black people. White supremacy comes with a diversity element, an influx of immigrants to economically drown out any effort of independence that black people have. There's all these spokes on the wheel of white supremacy. White supremacy ain't just white skin. It never has been. But again, that's one of the reasons why they keep us out of this conversation, because if we get down into this conversation, then we're going to start talking about the very people we're talking to. And that would be the propaganda wing of white supremacy, which is the news. Why are you talking about this story like this? You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing complicated about this. We all got it down pat. It's everybody else that just don't understand it. Then you have to worry about the false representation. Then you have to worry about the fact that you're a freedman, FBA, ADOS, and you have other people masquerading as you, and the population at large not acknowledging that you're your own ethnicity. That's a whole, I was listening to one of those spaces that Tariq Nasheed posts on his YouTube channel, and there was some white people that were like, what is a foundational Black American? And Tariq was like, well, this is what a foundational Black American is. And then he gave what the requirements are. And then they're like, well, I don't understand that. How do you not understand that? Understand this. How is a Black Latino not an African American? Answer that question. How is the designation of African American, right? You guys remember union and intersect from geometry class? So an African American could be a Black Latino, because if we're calling Black people African and you are a person who is Black and lives in South America is still America, but you speak Spanish. So all of these are word games, but we have no specific designation here. There's nothing to distinguish me from somebody who's from Nigeria, because that person would be an African American also. They're just an immigrant. If they're an immigrant and they're an African American and I'm not an immigrant, my parents aren't immigrants, and I can trace my family back to a foundation, and I don't have a last name like Umbuku, my last name is Irish, how are we the same? That's not xenophobia. That's common sense. You see, that's one of the reasons why I say when the mainstream media picked up on the term of white supremacy, that's when it's time to let a term go. Now everybody is using white supremacy. Feminists, white women will say that the white supremacist patriarchy is what's keeping them down. That's one of the reasons why they hate and love affirmative action, because they got to hate and love stuff. The white supremacist patriarchy. Shout out to my man James Hudson. Asians will sit there and say white supremacy is the reason why AAPI crimes happen. It's just that Black people are the ones committing them. We saw that nonsense in that Charlie guy's video that me and Torian tore apart. What's actually going on is Black containment. Black containment is the strategy that the United States uses. The United States has systems in place to contain Black people in a isolated position in multiple different aspects of reality: financial, population growth, education, upward mobility, and ethnicity. The entire purpose of white supremacy is to contain Black people. When we talk about white supremacy, anybody can come in and shoehorn their way in like they do with everything else, because they're too stupid to come up with their own things. So we got to get specific. If we're going to get specific and start calling ourselves things like ADOS, you know what I'm saying? Start calling ourselves things like FBA, go back to calling ourselves freedmen. I think it would make sense for people to re-examine the things that the United States does to us, put them together, group them, and show them in a pattern. And if what they do is contain us and they only contain us, we need to call that Black containment. Our population is contained at 13% because of an influx of immigration, high crime areas, and abortions. Our financial status is contained because of the racial wealth gap. Everything that this country does is to contain us. The police don't like something that you did or said, they throw you in jail to contain you. They have a school to prison pipeline to contain you. It always has been and always will be about Black containment. Because if you have someone in a container, if you have them contained, you control them. If there's a radiation spill and you get the spill contained, that means that it's under control. The idea of freedom is to get out of control. That's why they tell people not to riot. Control yourself. Well, it's not you controlling yourself. It's them controlling you. We want to control the results. We want to control the damage. We want to control the reaction. We want to control the narrative. We want to control the media. We want to control your brain. We want to control your children. We want to control your immune system. The idea is to get out of control, completely out of control. It's containment. Africa is contained, not only by colonization, but by European military bases. Containment. What does white supremacy do? It contains, whether through monetary, whether it's through quantitative easing, whether it's through population control, whether it's through a propaganda education curriculum. The idea is to get out of control. Anything that will allow you to get out of the container is something that white supremacy will never allow, which means that you have to do it on your own. They'll give you something that makes it seem like you'll be able to get out of the container, but what nobody told you is that the rope is greased up and the sides are greased up. So you'll be slipping down that rope and sliding down when you're trying to climb up the side. Control. Control. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says it is the system and the tactics that foster racism and violence, they say, rather than the specific racial identity of the officers. It's not racism driving this, it's culturalism. Really? What is culturalism? Of course it's not racism, because nothing is ever racism. Let me ask you guys a question. When is something racism? Yeah, I agree. All tools of Black containment. Facts. Biggie talked about it. You either slinging crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. Containment. Rappers rap about containment all the time. Fast money. Because I can't just show my white face on YouTube and get 1 million subscribers from 8 videos. Containment. You know what I'm saying? Robert M. Sassuto, the head of a Los Angeles nonprofit formed after the Rodney King beating in 1991, said after watching the video of Mr. Nichols' beating on Friday night, it's a culture in law enforcement where it's okay to be aggressive to those they're supposed to serve. There it is. That's it. That's the only problem. That's the culture. That's the cultural issue. It's not racism. It's just a culture in law enforcement where it's okay to be aggressive to those they're supposed to serve. That's all. Do you guys agree with that claim? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. That would be a hard disagree for me. I totally disagree. But he also commended Los Angeles police officials for their progress working with the community since the King beating. So this is Tyre Nichols right here. So now it says videos released by the city of Memphis on Friday evening, including police body camera footage and shots from a pole-mounted police camera, show Mr. Nichols. Here we go again. This is so important to them. Crying out for his mother. That is so important for them to keep reiterating. Now, this is the New York Times that's reiterating it. Why is that so important? So I disagree too, Deneen. And so what we gotta understand is that the reason why the New York Times put this piece out here is because what they do is we're gonna force you to think this way. So we're gonna repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until nobody challenges what we've been saying. We're gonna beat this into you. Well, you're not gonna beat it into us. We have to talk about this institutionalized police culture that has this unwritten law. So basically what this again, didn't I tell you guys at the beginning of this? Tyre Nichols beating opens a complicated conversation on race. That's not what you have to read the titles for what they actually say. What this actually says is Tyre Nichols beating opens an opportunity to confuse the conversation on race and policing. Now we have them talking about culture. Yet we're not talking about the white supremacist culture. Filthy Griffith says the system survives off of brainwashing of the millions who follow blindly and ask nothing. Facts. If you guys agree with Fury Griffith, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. I agree 100%. That was a great comment. You guys give me super chats, I give you guys super comments. You know what I'm saying? I think that was a super comment. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Fury. Donnie says, I think I'm trying to think of a word to define this tactic they keep using. It's maximum sophisticated confusion, just like Neely Fuller Jr. said. The idea is to confuse the victim to know that they're not know that they're being victimized. So we know what the situation is. We know that it's a white supremacist culture that, for one, created self-hate, for two, created coons, and for three, provides the financial gasoline to keep putting fuel in the tanks of those people, to incentivize and positively reinforce that kind of psyche. We already know that. If you know that, you know too much. So what we got to do is we got to try to confuse you. No, it's not about culture. It's not about white supremacy. It's not about race. What it is that, the police all happen to act like rabid dogs. That's what it is. That's not what it is. Yeah, I agree, AB. Facts. If you guys agree with AB, they're mocking the fact that he called for his mother. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, they're trying to show him in a weakened position, looking like less than a man. And they're then using that to broadcast the narrative, black men are weak. That's what they're doing. So now here it says many urban police departments have been pushing to diversify their ranks. What is that going to do? When they say pushing to diversify their ranks, we now know that they're going to be bringing in illegals. How does diversifying anything help? The mainstream media has a monopoly on black brains, and I think it's time for us to do a little bit of antitrust work. What do you guys think? See, this is the stupid stuff that people fall for, and then they turn around and vote for it. And then they're content because they see the person that they like. It doesn't matter if you like a person or not. They're not doing anything for you. You know what I'm saying? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed the like button, please make sure you guys take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice, and make sure you guys share the video out to all of your followers. Yeah, they're doing it in Las Vegas. They're doing it in Utah. They're doing it all over the place. And shout out to Katsy for answering that Nightbot. What do you all think about diversifying the police department? The police department is pretty diverse already. Let's talk about the diversity in the police. Officer Stephen Q is an asshole. Amber Geiger and Kim Potter killed black men. Sheriff Villanueva is a piece of shit. There's your diversity right there. There's your village people of police. Okay. So now here it says James Foreman Jr., who has studied and written on race in law enforcement, said that asking why the race of the officers did not prevent them from violence against Mr. Nichols loses sight of the systemic forces at work. Literally no one, only white people would ask a stupid ass question like this: why the race of the officers did not prevent them from violence against Mr. Nichols. Only white people would say some shit like that. And here's the evidence that only white people would say some shit like that. Peyton Gendron at 18 years old allowed skin color to stop him from shooting one individual at the tops, and then he went on and shot the other ones based on skin color. Why these people sit there and talk about we're the ones hung up on race? Again, when it comes to black people complaining about this shit, we've been complaining about the police, all of them. No, how long? Some people been saying that. People been saying this in the comment section. All skin folks ain't kin folks. We know that. So it wouldn't be black people asking why the race of the officers didn't prevent them from violence against Mr. Nichols. Are you serious? We've been calling people coons and sambos and tethers and anchor babies and all kinds of stuff. Anti-black black people. We're constantly calling out other black people for being anti-black. Black people would never say something that stupid. And that's a fact. PD Chicago B1, they wrote this like there were no white officers present. And don't you guys notice the media is making a special effort to not address the white officers that were there? Now, when it comes to Tyre Nichols, they keep showing Tyre Nichols getting beat down, but they don't keep showing Tyre Nichols' father asking about the white police officer that was there. Do you think that's an accident? I don't think that that's an accident. You know what I'm saying? We don't know their names either. Nobody knows those white police officers' names. You think they're protecting them? I mean, we know that some of the black police officers used to work in fast food and shit like that. We don't know nothing about the white police officers. Anybody know where Kimberly Potter used to work at? Anybody know where Amber Geiger used to work at? Anybody know where Derek Chauvin used to work at? Anybody know the white police officers who were there's names? They showing the black female police chief more than they showing the white police officers who was there. And the black female police chief wasn't even there. You know what I'm saying? Think about that. And see, these are the questions that we got to ask. Because this is the stuff that the mainstream media isn't going to ask. The mainstream media is going to come out with an opinion piece and say, these are the questions that we're asking. Yeah, those are the questions that you guys are asking. The only problem is that you're not our media and we don't care what you're asking. We're asking what we want to have answers to. Nothing that you're asking is anything that we're interested in because you're not interesting. You know what I'm saying? So now, here it says, blackness doesn't shield you from all of the forces that make police violence possible, Mr. Foreman said. So this is an article that's written for white people, because I don't know why they would be talking to us about blackness, because we're black. I mean, we all know what's going on. We know what time it is. Facts, MC007. Those white police officers were the ones that tased the guy. Now, here's the thing. The white officers should automatically be guilty, just like all the police officers should be guilty, because it was we've already established that it was an unlawful traffic stop. So at the least, they should be getting charged with assault, because they assaulted him with a taser. They assaulted a civilian that shouldn't have been stopped in the first place. They can't substantiate the driving, and they can't substantiate probable cause. So they just attacked somebody is what they did. All of them, including the people that tased him, because there was no reason for him to be tased. He shouldn't have been being arrested. You can't resist arrest when you weren't supposed to be being arrested. Now, how come the media is not asking those questions? And this is one of the reasons why people need to stop dealing with the media. So now here it says, Mr. Foreman said, what are the theories of policing and the styles of policing and training? Training, here we go with the training issue. So again, it's not because of race. It's not because of racism. It's not because of white supremacy. It's a training issue. Of course, it's a training issue. How many training issues over the many years are we going to have? It's always a training issue. Every single time it's a training issue, don't they always say, well, we're going to change some of the internal things that we do for the training? I mean, they clearly don't. They clearly don't change anything, do they? You know what I'm saying? So now here it says all of those dynamics that propel violence and brutality are more powerful than the race of the officer. So again, what this article is doing is that this article is diluting the importance of the race component in this entire thing. Just like we said that it would, based on when we decoded the title. You know what I'm saying? Lewis Hub says the white male is a 26-year-old Detective Preston Hemphill. I didn't know that. Did you guys know that? I'm about to look him up real quick. Detective Preston Hemphill. Oh, yeah, look at this. Detective Preston Hemphill. News One got an article about it. That's interesting. Hold on real quick. We about to check this out. Yeah, facts, PD. Everybody show some love. Show some love to Lewis Hub with the receipt. Who is Preston Hemphill, and why hasn't the white cop in Tyre Nichols' body cam video been charged? The white officer can be heard hopping the now fired Memphis police officers beating Nichols will stomp his ass. Oh, the white officer can be heard hoping the now fired Memphis officers beating Tyre Nichols stomp his ass. That's interesting. I didn't know all that. Did you guys know that? Torian said they said he was born in 1996. He looked like he was born in 1986. Facts. So let me see what they're talking about here. Since the city of Memphis released videos showing a group of officers brutalizing Tyre Nichols, two of the main questions being asked are who the white cop is seen in the violent traffic footage and why hasn't he also been fired, arrested, and charged in the murder in the black motorist's death. According to a tweet by Amber Sherman, a Memphis-based policy analyst and activist, Preston Hemphill is named in the affidavit as having deployed his taser during the violent traffic stop on January 7th. The tweet is also showing a picture of a man alleged to be Hemphill. Okay. So there's that right there. This is Preston Hemphill. Detective Hemphill is named in the affidavit as having deployed his taser. He's 26, born in 1996. He needs to be charged accordingly for his part in contributing to Tyre Nichols being murdered. Notice the Apple Watch in both pictures, same band. Okay. So now here it says hours later, the claim made in Sherman's tweet was amplified without credit by the Tennessee Holler, an independent news organization covering the volunteer state. Meet Detective Preston Hemphill. This is apparently who tased Tyre Nichols and said, I hope they stomp his ass. The Tennessee Holler tweeted Sunday night. It said Hemphill's name is confirmed in an incident narrative provided by the Memphis Police Department. Breaking, there was a white cop involved with Tyre Nichols' murder. He is the one who tased Nichols at the beginning of the beating. Why is he not being charged? Why are only the black ones being charged? So now here it says the Tennessee Holler punctuated its tweet by asking why Hemphill was not fired, arrested, and charged like the other officers involved, all black men. The tweet was directed at Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland, Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy, and Memphis Police Chief Saralyn C.J. Davis. So here's this right here. The Tennessee Holler. Meet Detective Preston Hemphill. This is apparently who tased Tyre Nichols and said, I hope they stomp his ass. This is confirmed in the MEM Police Department incident narrative. Why has Preston not been fired or charged? So now, what do you guys think about this? Yeah, I agree. If you guys agree with Torian, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Operation Protect the White Boy. That's what it always is. Yet you got Mark Dice sitting there talking about there's a war on white people. Doesn't seem like a war on white people to me. That dude looks like somebody from Revenge of the Nerds. So now here it says, a 2019 entry on the Open Payrolls website identifies a person named Preston Hemphill as a police service technician for the city of Memphis. According to a job listing on the city of Memphis website, recruiting for a police service technician, someone working in that capacity has job duties that include responding to traffic control, non-critical crash investigation, and motor vehicle code and status enforcement. Notably, the job is described in part as a non-commissioned entry-level trainee position in which individuals will receive preparatory training and experience to become future police candidates. So I don't know what this is right here. The governor's salary website identified Preston Hemphill as a police officer for the city of Memphis in 2020. A link showing the city of Memphis employee's salary in 2021 also identified Preston Hemphill as a police officer. Sherman's tweet even pointed to a wristband for an Apple Watch as an indicator that Hemphill must be the white cop in the video. An inquiry sent to the city of Memphis asking about Hemphill was not immediately returned. Okay. So now News One is actually asking some interesting questions. Do white blue lives matter than black ones? I mean, who knows what kind of babble News One is going to put in here, but we all know the answer to that. And the answer to that is absolutely. So the Confederate Christian has some new laws of physics for us. Deploying a taser isn't doing something physically. You know what I'm saying? Just so everybody knows, there's a news update. There's a news update. And in that news update, it says deploying a taser is not doing something physically. Just so everybody's aware of that. Okay. Before any name was reported, there was widespread speculation on social media about why the black cops were fired and charged, but not the white one, who also appeared to be an active participant in the brutality. So that debunks that whole didn't do anything physical narrative. Nichols' family specifically asked why the white officer wasn't fired, arrested, and charged. Now, they keep saying that they care about the family's concerns, but why is the mainstream media not addressing that particular concern? Do you guys notice that? Man, as concerned as CNN and NBC and ABC are, they're concerned about everything except that. You know what I'm saying? They're concerned about everything except that. Now, how come they haven't addressed that? That's the question. That's the problem. Why haven't they addressed that? You know what I'm saying? So now here it says there was a white officer that was tasing my son, and we don't understand how come his name was not put out there or mentioned in this whole fiasco. Nichols' stepfather, Rodney Wells, said in a recent interview. And that's a question that nobody's answered yet. Let's listen to this.
There was also at the initial encounter with my son, there was a white officer that was tasing my son, and we don't understand how come his name was not put out there or mentioned in this whole fiasco. So yes, I think that there should be quite a few additional charges.
So there's that. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed that like button, please make sure you guys smash that like button. Also, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys hit that bell icon twice, and please share the video out to your social media. Nice. Shout out to Director Kudo. Damn. So this does open up a complex question about race after all. Right. The only problem is that the article that was titled opening up a complex question about race isn't the one that actually opened up that question. We had to go to Newsmax, or News One, I mean. You know what I'm saying? It definitely does open up a complex question. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says the body cam and police videos were released on Friday and came just one day after 5 Memphis police officers responsible for the beating death of 29-year-old Nichols were charged with second-degree murder. So I don't think we need to read any of that. We got all the important stuff out of the way. We got this guy right here, Preston Hemphill. You know what I'm saying? We need to see what's going on with Preston. You know what I'm saying? So I want to show you guys something here. Let's go back to that New York Times article. I was hoping to try to get this done quickly because I wanted to do some call-ins, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to. Amber Sherman, an activist and organizer working with the Nichols family as they push for policy changes in the police, said that racism is a clear factor in policing when you look at who the victims of police violence are, not the race of the officers. And again, they're having these circular conversations. They're still not actually having this conversation in a way that it needs to be had. Officers of all races are indoctrinated into practices that sees black people and brown people. Again, why are they putting in brown people? What are they talking about, brown people? We have to stop and ask about that. Black people should have stopped listening to the mainstream media a long time ago when they continued to say black and brown. Yeah, facts, Torian. Again, it's never us who mentioned the black and brown thing, right? And again, that's one of the reasons why black people, black families need to stop going to the mainstream media, because the mainstream media will never, ever show you respect. When talking about you, they'll always throw somebody else into your issues. During the AAPI hate crime campaign, did anybody say black and Asian people experience the most hate crimes? did they say that? No, they never said that. So what this shows you guys is that when it comes to the mainstream media is consistent with the thought process of the population at large. And in order to have us looked at as complete and full human beings, they have to lump another group in with us. Because on our own, they just can't tolerate seeing us as humans. And I think that they need to be pressed on that every time. There should never be a time when they're allowed to say black and brown without getting any pushback. I think that these mainstream news media outlets have been allowed to get away with way too much for way too long. And they need to start dealing with consequences. Because that's disrespect. There was no brown victim here to this crime. And it's not a unity thing. So now here it says on social media, some people rejected the idea that racism was to blame, arguing that pointing to systemic policing robs individuals of agency and responsibility. No, it doesn't. Can't people be bad and motivated by their lack of maturity, self-awareness, and inability to discern? Does every incident involving police and black men have to revert back to being an issue of race? Yeah. I mean, you just identified it by black men. You didn't say men. You said black men. So clearly there's an element of race there. This is how dumb these people are. This is one of the reasons why they shouldn't be entertained. And another reason why their news media outlets shouldn't be entertained either. You know what I'm saying? So now a conservative commentator, Allie Beth Stuckley, wrote on Twitter that it is a warped worldview that can't grapple with the fact that people of all races do bad things. Black police brutality by beating a black man isn't because of white supremacy, racism, or a system. They did it because people have the capacity to do wrong. This is coming from a person who's a European. who Europeans have a culture of a worldview that Europeans are superior to other people on the planet. The very people that can't grapple that non-Europeans are their equals, possibly their graders, are asking us to grapple with their culture. The irony in these things are just hilarious. Others expressed disappointment that Black officers did not have more empathy, as well as concern that the race of the officers would muddle the issue of entrenched police violence against Black people. Again, these have to be white people who would be saying this stuff. As an African American, it's unfortunate that because the officers are Black, people are going to say violence against Blacks is not racially motivated. Joel Kellum, 57, a public school teacher in New York City, said. And what's interesting about this is, shout out to everybody in the comment section. We all knew that was what was exactly what would happen. Literally, as soon as this happened, before any of the opinion pieces came out, before, like, we all said this is what would happen. And the exact way that everybody predicted this would be talked about is the way that it was talked about. Would you guys agree? We all predicted the spin that would be taken on this, and it was accurate to the T. And now remember, these are your Democrat, these are your liberal media news outlets. You know what I'm saying? Black cops will do that to Black perps too, Mr. Kellum added. It's complicated and it's sad. It's not really that complicated, but okay. Police reform advocates have long argued that departments should more accurately reflect the demographics of the communities they police as a way to improve policing and help build trust in those communities. I disagree. And those police reform advocates aren't grassroots advocates. They're paid Democrat think tanks. It doesn't matter what a person looks like. We just said all skin folks ain't kin folks. If you're a WS Matrix programmed zombie, it doesn't matter if you Black as Wesley Snipes. Or it doesn't matter if you light-skinned as Maya. It's your brain that matters. And if you have a WS programmed and dominated brain, it doesn't matter what your skin color diversity looks like. How long have we been saying that? How long have we been saying that? So these opinion pieces, again, these aren't opinion pieces at all. These are confusion pieces. That's what we're going to start calling them. You guys think that's a good name? Anytime these people come out and say, well, we have an opinion about this, we're going to call it a confusion piece, because that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to cause confusion. Again, and the reason why this sounds so foreign and ridiculous is because this is a Mayo conversation about a Black issue. So you guys ever heard, like, have you ever listened to your white friend trying to sound cool singing a rap song and you looking at him crazy like, I can't wait for you to try to say that N-word so I could slap your teeth out of your mouth? Have you ever had that situation happen? And they sound all crazy singing it? Well, that's the same way that they sound trying to talk about this. Dude, it's still DRE. Yeah, that's not how he said it. That's not how he said it. He didn't say, dude, it's still DRE. You know what I'm saying? And Snoop Dogg's middle name isn't fucking. But dude, I love Snoop fucking Dogg. Okay, yeah. See, this is what I'm talking about. See, it sounds like that. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is that it's important to pay attention to this, though, because then you'll understand where all of the diluted talking points come from. Shout out to Cyberdean100. What up with it, bro? Cyberdean says they hype bogus concerns and don't answer questions. Facts. Facts on facts. Another thing that they do is Not only do they hype bogus concerns and not answer questions, they use those confusion tactics and the deflection in order to direct attention away from exposing areas of the conversation, things that would expose them. You know what I'm saying? Like asking about the white cops, or asking about how come all the other instances of police violence haven't been handled like this. We're not going to have those conversations, because if we had those conversations, that's going to make us look really bad. Exactly, Deneen. They're taking away the wrong lessons on purpose. They're deflecting on purpose. Confusion piece. This piece is meant to confuse you. It's the same reason. Listen, the mainstream media is the new missionaries. You remember when the missionaries went all over the place? Europe would send missionaries to different countries. They'd send them to Africa. They'd send them to Asia. They'd send them to South America, Central America, and say, here, we're going to teach you these things. And then everybody was confused. They first send the missionaries, and then the soldiers would come. And next thing you know, you got white people running where you live. Well, this is the same thing. This is just missionaries 2.0, the media. Confusion pieces. You thought you understood racism, you know what I'm saying? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my misconstrued version of it. And I'm going to make you read it 1,000,000 times. And then I'm going to repeat it on the mainstream media 1,000,000 times until you don't know up from down and down from up. And then next thing you know, I'm going to take all your shit and say that you stole my shit. You know what I'm saying? Now, this lady sitting up here trying to point her pointed nose at people and say, well, if you don't have a worldview, well, if you don't see patterns, then something's wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? In Memphis, the 65% of the population is black, and so is 58% of its police force. So what this shows again is this is black containment. Just like I said, black containment. If you got a bunch of black people and their brains are contained by white supremacy, you can have an area where you have 65% black civilians and you actually have black race soldiers helping contain the population. You know what I'm saying? As a result of these black race soldiers, now you got Tyre Nichols contained in a casket. Everything that WS does is in an effort to contain the black people. Black containment. There's no way that Asians and Latinos can shoehorn in on that. We're talking about black containment. We're not talking about standing hand in hand and singing Kumbaya. We're talking about what happens when you come to this country and when you set up shop in our neighborhoods and when you take the money out of the neighborhoods and when you treat the people that patron your business like crap. Black containment. That's black containment. So now here it says we have a very simplistic way of approaching the problem of policing and believing that representation is some kind of silver bullet, said Professor Jody Armour, a University of Southern California law professor who studies racial justice. It's not just a black and white issue, but a black and blue one. Oh, Lord. And when you put on that blue uniform, it often becomes the primary identity that drowns out any other identities that might compete with it. Now, I find that fascinating because this is coming from some liberal professor, Jody Armour, from the University of Southern California, who's explaining that when a black person puts on a blue police uniform, the police identification supersedes the black identification, but she's not going to admit that same fact about LGBTQ or being from the Caribbean or being from Africa or anything else. That only works in one instance. Oh, well, you know, when you put on a police uniform, it supersedes your blackness. But when it comes to LGBTQ being an immigrant or a woman or anything else, then it doesn't supersede your identity. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Did y'all catch that? If y'all caught that, give me a thumbs up. If y'all didn't catch that, give me a thumbs down. So now here it says, Mr. Armour said, the Memphis incident shows that it is a fairy tale to think that adding more members of a marginalized group. So now we go from talking about black to marginalized groups, and the police will lead to more just and fairer treatment of members of that group. Again, it doesn't matter, especially if your brain has already been infected by WS dementia. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Clarence Thomas is a Supreme Court justice. It doesn't matter that Kamala Harris is the vice president. Why don't they compare Kamala Harris to these police officers? Kamala Harris sat there and told black people that she ain't gonna do anything for anybody black. Just like how these police officers said, we're black, but we gonna beat your ass like we white police officers. Same thing. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man Sean Williams, who arrived to the chat suddenly. You know what I'm saying? Just like suddenly, black police officers are the face of police violence. You know what I'm saying? Dezane Parker of the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, one of the organizations associated with the Black Lives Matter movement, renewed a call to defund the police. Now, let's talk about the nuance with this. What when it comes to Democrat politics, what are Democrats about? Who likes big government? Democrats or Republicans? Answer that question for me in the chat. Shout out to my man Jay Bird. What up with it, bro? Who likes big government? Is it the Democrats or is it the Republicans that like big government? It's the Dems. If you guys agree with Deneen, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Porter says the DNC. Facts. If you guys agree with Deneen and Porter, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down and state your piece. Now, how are the Democrats going to defund the police if they're the party of big government? Aren't the police part of the government? So what that would mean is that a Democrat government would fund the police like Stacey Abrams was talking about, right? Donnie Side said, I don't know what a Democrat is in Neely Fuller Jr. voice. Facts. And both parties do it. Absolutely. But that's the logical question that should be asked. And the thing that's interesting is that people don't ever give that pushback. But then again, we don't know if people are giving that pushback because the mainstream media never comes and communicates with the grassroots. When is the last time you saw the mainstream media communicating with the grassroots, with the black grassroots, so somebody could actually ask that question? Well, Democrats are all about big government, so Stacey Abrams wants me to vote for her, but she said that she wanted to give more funding to the police. So how are we going to do that? You know what I'm saying? Like Joe Biden said, fund the police. Facts. Like Stacey Abrams said, fund the police. This affirms what we've known all along. Reform doesn't work. Well, here's the question. What's actually been reformed? Can anybody name me any reforming police law that's happened? What has actually been reformed? They couldn't even get the George Floyd Justice and Policing bill passed. The only thing that ever happens are articles that say we need to have talks about police reform. So that's what we're doing. We're talking about police reform. There's never any actual reform. Where has there ever been actual police reform? So the rest of this article is just a bunch of nonsense. Basically, you guys get it. What it is a lukewarm, out of touch, very bland conversation. Because when white people saw black police officers beating a black person, it exposed the fact that white people never see white people doing anything wrong. They can only visualize black people doing something wrong. So when white people saw black police officers beating Tyre Nichols, now we need to open up a complex conversation about race. The complex conversation I have about race is what was wrong with y'all eyes that you couldn't see when y'all was beating the shit out of people. Now we need to have a conversation about it. You know what I'm saying? That should tell you everything that you need to know. That should tell you everything that you need to know. You know what I'm saying? So the AP, Associated Press, they're at it again. Tyre Nichols' case receives or revives call for change in police culture. It revives calls, huh? When do you revive something? Anybody got an answer for me for that? Tyre Nichols' case revives calls for change in police culture. When does something get revived? Anybody know? When is a revival necessary? Who got the answer for me? After it died. When something is dead, when something is flatlining. Facts. So what does that tell you about calls for change in police culture? What does that tell you about calls in police culture? They died. Which is why we have to revive them. Which is why there hasn't been any change, because the calls died. Just like what I said last time. I don't be making this stuff up. I know it might sound crazy, but I'm telling you I'm not. Trust me. You know what I'm saying? So what this article is saying is that we need to talk about this to appease people until something else happens. And then when something else happens, we can stop talking about it and not address it. And then when it happens again, we'll revive calls for change in police culture because they've died. Shout out to my man Terrence. What up with it, bro? This is an admission that calls for change in police culture died, which is why the Democrats failed when it came to getting the George Floyd Justice and Police Act signed into law. Gay marriage was signed into law before a simple police bill was signed into law. Qualified immunity. You know what I'm saying? AAPI hate crime bill signed into law before qualified immunity. Gay marriage, something as controversial and society changing as that, was signed into law before something simple about holding the police accountable. I want y'all to marinate that for a minute. Marinate on that. Let that sit there. Think about it. Think about it. We're going to start this sentence out by saying an unarmed black man dies after a videotaped beating by police. Which time? You know what I'm saying? The officers involved are fired. After a thorough review of evidence, criminal charges are swiftly filed against the offending officers. Again, these are all historic things because nothing like this has ever happened. Criminal charges have never been issued swiftly. Officers in most cases are suspended with administrative leave. There's usually not a thorough review of evidence, and criminal charges are usually filed a year or two later. What do you guys think? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed that like button, please make sure you guys take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, please make sure you guys hit that bell icon twice. And if you're not subscribed to my backup channels, take a moment, make sure you guys hit the backup channels. Investigation, accountability, and charges. This is often the most Black citizens can hope for as the deaths continue. What do you guys think about that? That's actually a powerful statement. Why is that? This is often the most that Black citizens can hope for. We need to change this. We need to change this condition so that we're not hoping for anything. We need to change this situation to where investigation, accountability, and charges occur whether they wanted to or not, because we made them do it, because we have the power to make them do it. And if they don't do it, then we have the resources, the durability, and the tenacity to do it on our own. We'll investigate you. We'll make you accountable, and we'll charge you in the Black court. That's something that we need to construct, because I don't like hope. I hope my scratch-off ticket has the winning numbers. You know what I'm saying? I hope it don't snow tomorrow. When it comes to accountability, I want to control accountability through negative reinforcement and deterrence. I want to leave a memorable, lasting, etched in impression in your brain of why you should think very long and hard about doing something stupid like this again. And if the white supremacist justice system doesn't want to do that, we need to be making sure that we're fully capable with the resources to be able to make that happen on our own. The justice system doesn't want to make your life miserable. We'll make your life miserable. You'll be in prison, but not behind bars, because we created the means to be able to just have the imaginary walls close in on you. That's the kind of stuff we need to be on. We can never expect anything in this system to ever work in our favor, ever. We have to make this guy unemployable. We have to make him a social media celebrity so that everywhere he goes, everybody knows his face. We have to do that. We can't count on anybody to do it. We have to do it. You know what I'm saying? So this word hope is a dangerous word. You know that it's dangerous because this is what Obama's campaign was. Hope. Hope what? You know what I'm saying? I don't like hope. I like certainty. You know what I'm saying? This is often the most Black citizens can be certain for as deaths continue, not hope for. Nationwide, police have killed roughly 3 people per day consistently since 2020, according to academics and advocates for police reforms who track such deaths. Tyre Nichols' fatal encounter with police officers in Memphis, Tennessee, recorded in video made public on Friday night, is a glaring reminder that efforts to quote-unquote reform police have failed to prevent more flashpoints in an intractable epidemic of brutality. No, that's not true. Efforts to reform policing have failed. End of sentence. That there's nothing else to it. That paragraph didn't need to be that long. You know what I'm saying? They've never actually done efforts to reform police. They've only made news articles about it to make people think that something was being done. If you listen to this stuff for hours on end, you will actually think that there's something going on. There's no meetings happening about police reform. Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, and Nancy Pelosi, none of them people sitting down talking about police reform. Joe Biden ain't talking about police reform. Kamala Harris ain't talking about police reform. Kamala Harris was a corrupt prosecutor who was part of this. You know what I'm saying? So now here says and they keep comparing this to Rodney King. Nearly 32 years ago, Rodney King's savage beating by police in Los Angeles prompted heartfelt calls for change. They've been repeated in a caseless rhythm ever since, punctuated by the deaths of Amadou Diallo in New York, Oscar Grant in Oakland, California, Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and so many others. George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis in 2020 was so agonizing to watch, it summoned a national reckoning that featured federal legislation proposed in his name that failed. You know what I'm saying? And shows, look at this, and shows of solidarity by corporations and sports leagues. So much that they paid no lobbyist money to get that bill passed. Those corporations supported that George Floyd justice and policing bill so much that they paid zero in lobbying to get it paid. Because I tell you what, Big Pharma got a lot of lobbying money. LGBTQ got a lot of lobbying money. Where's the George Floyd justice and policing super PAC? You know what I'm saying? All fell short of the shift in law enforcement culture Black people in America have called for, a culture that promotes freedom from fear, trust in police, and mutual respect. I don't think Black people have ever called for any of this. I think Black people have called for an extermination of the white supremacist in police culture. Nobody said any of this other extra stuff. Nobody trusts the police because the police are always going to be a part of the government, and nobody trusts the government. We all know that the government doesn't respect us, so there'll never be any mutual respect. And when it comes to freedom from fear, regardless what they do with the police, we still live in a WS prison. So people are going to have their legitimate reasons to fear. Again, when it comes to what we've been calling for, when it comes to police culture, it's to get rid of the white supremacist police culture, which is not going to happen. You have to get rid of all of white supremacy, period. You can't just get rid of it in a little pocket. You know what I'm saying? White supremacy is like a systemic disease. When you're septic, you got to get IV drugs to go all throughout your system to kill whatever it is that's wrong with you. You can't get something topical and kill a systemic infection. You got to get IV medicine to go all throughout your drugs to kill it because it's gone throughout your system and infected you. And white supremacy has infected every system in the United States, which means that it's going to take a systemic solution to fix it, not a topical one. Dealing with the police is a topical situation. That's like putting zit cream on a pimple. You know what I'm saying? You need to take erythromycin to get the Staphylococcus aureus out of your bloodstream so you don't get any more zits on your back. You know what I'm saying? That's how you got to deal with this. You can't deal with a systemic issue with a topical solution. If you have an issue with your tire rods, your wheels, your axles, your brake pads, putting on new tires isn't going to help your entire suspension system. That's what's called a fix-a-flat. You know what I'm saying? You can't fix a system with a fix-a-flat. You can't fix a brake system with a brake pad. Like, it doesn't work. And everybody knows this because this is just basic. But pay very close attention to how the mainstream media will play dumb. Yeah, facts, Carla. The ADL is sitting in there counting in their house, counting out their money. Yeah, super facts. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna talk about that pretty soon. We're gonna talk about the Pritzker family, because the Pritzker family been making it rain too. And if you pay very close attention, people like the Pritzkers are always the ones that are behind the bad areas. And the reason why is they sink those areas to make them have lower real estate value so that they can buy them up and put businesses in. Exactly, PD, putting a Band-Aid on a headache. That's a perfect analogy. That's a perfect analogy. So now here it says we need public safety, right? We need law enforcement to combat pervasive crime, said Jason Turner, senior pastor of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church in Memphis. Also, we don't want the people who are sworn to protect and serve us brutalizing us for a simple traffic stop or any other offense. The 5 officers, look, the 5 black officers, they may as well call these the Black 5 because that's what everybody keeps calling them, are now fired and charged with murder and other crimes in the January 10th death of Nichols, a 29-year-old skateboarder, FedEx worker, and father to a 4-year-old boy. From police brass and the district attorney's office to the White House, officials said Nichols' killing points need for a broader reform that go beyond by simply diversifying the ranks, changing use of force rules, and encouraging citizens to file complaints. None of these have worked. Do you guys remember Officer Stephen Q from Detroit? How many, if you guys know the story of Officer Stephen Q in Detroit, Michigan, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys have never heard the story of Officer Stephen Q, give me a thumbs down. Because I think everybody should hear the story of Officer Stephen Q. Because the story of Officer Stephen Q will show you exactly how ineffective citizens making complaints against other police officers are. Okay? And it's also a diversity case. So it seems like everybody's heard of him. RG Titan's heard of him. All the long-term people have heard of it. Fury says he hasn't. Anybody that hasn't heard of Officer Stephen Q and wants to hear about it, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. Because you guys should hear about this if you haven't. We got a lot of new people in here. I know the old school people have heard about this, but the new people need to hear about it because this is what police reform looks like. You know what I'm saying? Fury wants to hear about it. If you guys haven't smashed that like button, help your boy out by hitting that like button.
Recognize this guy?
Yes, I do.
That's him?
That's the officer that put me over.
Detroit Police Sergeant William Ziola is the kind of cop you don't forget.
He was the most aggressive. Was like a pit bull with a muzzle.
On the force for 25 years, Ziola was promoted just last year, which might surprise you when you learn that no officer on the force today has received more complaints from citizens than him, 93 and counting. And among those filed against him and his partners, you'll find recurring allegations of improper searches, unnecessary force, and harassment. Stanley Perkins has been pulled over by Ziola, and not just once or twice, he says.
I've been pulled over by him about 4 times.
The first back in 2016, just as he was leaving work.
And the first thing he said was, do you have any guns or drugs on you? And I'm like, I'm just getting off work. Snatched my door open, pulled me out the vehicle, walked me to the back, cuffed me, put me in the back of his scout car.
Perkins said Ziola searched his entire SUV without finding anything.
I mean, he was acting like straight up like a street guy. He called me a back and forth with different kind of names.
Did he ever tell you why he pulled you over?
No, he didn't.
Why do you think he did?
I was a black man in a BMW.
He was let go, but about 6 months later, he saw Ziola again. This time, he says the officer claimed it was over.
Now, you know what's funny about this? You guys want to know what's funny about this? This isn't Officer Stephen Q. I actually clicked on the wrong video. That's how often this happens. This is some guy named Ziola.
For a bad headlight.
He snatched my door open, pulls me out the car again. I'm like, here we go.
Another search of his car again yielded nothing. Perkins was neither arrested nor charged, but after both run-ins, he filed complaints against Ziola, alleging he was being harassed. Both were closed without any discipline.
I think he thought I was a drug dealer.
What I want you guys to do is pay attention to this. This is a guy named Ziola, okay? I'm still going to show the one about Stephen Q. How many people had heard of this? If you guys heard of this guy, give me a thumbs up. If you guys haven't, give me a thumbs down. And if you guys haven't heard of this, again, we got to ask that question. Why aren't they talking about these police officers? Remember, when it comes to these 5 black police officers, I mean, this just opens up a new can of worms because, I mean, you know, this doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, then what is this? And they said citizen complaints. Well, these citizens are complaining. Nothing's happening.
I'm a businessman, so I like nice cars. I buy nice cars because I work hard for it. So that doesn't mean I'm a drug dealer because I got a nice car.
I'll never forget that. Just because of the treatment of that officer.
Cass Birchfield was driving with his friend in Detroit when he says he was pulled over by Ziola and his partners with their guns drawn. The reason for the stop, he claims, a broken windshield.
Once the door was open, he got one cuff on and literally just pulled by the handcuff. When I got home, I had cuts on my wrist from the cuffs.
The most aggressive of the officers, he said, was Ziola, who searched his car and came up with nothing. But Birchfield still left with a ticket for that broken windshield. His complaint against Ziola did not result in discipline.
That's not how you treat someone on a traffic stop.
Ziola hasn't just been on the receiving end of complaints. Along with his partners, he's been sued at least 12 times throughout his career.
As soon as I turned around, I just was tackled from behind.
So now here's my question. If these cops right here are like this, what do you guys think that the immigrant cops are going to be like?
One of those cases involved Keenan Ellsbury, who says he was driving to his ex-wife's home in the early hours of May 2nd, 2011, when a team of Detroit police officers pulled him over, they said, for not using a turn signal. We spoke with him back in 2015.
You know, they handcuffed me, choking me, kneeing me. The whole time they were asking for drugs and guns. Where are the drugs and guns?
Police said Ellsbury attacked them. One said he grabbed for an officer's gun. He was charged with 4 felonies, including assaulting an officer. But that all changed when one of the cops on the scene came forward, alleging Ellsbury was a victim of police brutality. He said while he was handcuffed, officers kicked and punched him, and that Ziola stepped on his face, then called him a name. The charges against Ellsbury were dropped, and the city settled his lawsuit against DPD for $285,000.
So what does that tell you if the charges were dropped and they settled the lawsuit? Shout out to Black Queen Genius. What does that tell you? The charges were dropped and they settled the lawsuit. Somebody guilty of doing something. Right? Somebody did something. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed that like button, please make sure you guys take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys hit that bell icon twice. Also, if you don't follow me on my other social media, make sure you take a moment, follow me on my other social media.
Without admitting any fault, taxpayers have shelled out more than $750,000 to settle lawsuits where Ziola is a defendant. In each case, the department admitted no wrongdoing.
Something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. Obviously, there's no scrutiny of his behavior, and he's been getting away with it.
Ziola
Look, shout out to my man Corey Green. What up with it, bro? Fury, they always get a promotion. Like, this is like literally a pattern. Watch this next video that I'm gonna show y'all. Y'all about to be ready for comedy hour?
Declined an on-camera interview, but reached by phone, said he's received so many complaints because he investigates more citizens than a typical officer. He said his primary job is to find drugs and guns on the streets, and says citizens file complaints to discourage officers from pursuing them. He added that lawsuit settlements are not an admission of guilt, and that he was not disciplined over the allegations made in the Ellsbury case because they were not true. But Ziola is hardly the only Detroit officer we found with significant allegations of misconduct. Records we've obtained show 113 officers on the force have tallied at least 30.
Now, what's interesting is that both of these dudes are from Detroit. This guy and Stephen Q, the next guy that I'm going to show you guys, are also from Detroit.
30 citizen complaints. 58 have been sued at least 5 times, with one cop, Tyrone Gray, named a defendant in 16 lawsuits. 93 cops have been.
Tyrone Gray sounds like a brother. But when this happened, there was no complicated conversations about race and policing. Stephen Q is an Asian man. There was no complicated conversations about race and policing or diversity. The guys who gave Stephen Q a raise and a promotion was an entirely black city council. No talks about diversity or, race.
In 16 lawsuits. 93 cops have been disciplined at least 10 times, with one racking up 85 punishments alone. The city would not release his or her name, saying they were exempt because they work in an undercover or plainclothes capacity.
So, I mean, do you really want to have somebody who's beating the shit out of people, 85, punishments? This one is an undercover. I mean, that's extremely dangerous to have a violent police officer running around like that undercover. Are you serious here?
I appreciate your investigative reporting. When people see this on TV, they just shake their head. What is going on?
Tonight, Officer Ziola's alleged and documented misconduct is under review by the department, and he is not alone. Tonight on 7 Action News at 11, other officers on the force today with lengthy histories of alleged misconduct, not just from citizens, but from prosecutors.
All right, so that's this guy named Ziola, right? Now, check this out right here. Remember, these are all quote unquote allegedly, right? This is an allegedly new issue. This is something that we've never dealt before. This is historically a new concept for everybody.
He is the troubled Detroit sergeant with more than 80 complaints to his name. A 7 Action News investigation sidelined him from patrol duty. And now we're breaking even more news about his history that took Detroit police by surprise.
The sergeant has been taken to court more than a half dozen times, and it's cost taxpayers a small fortune in settlements alone. One case is being litigated right now, but the city insists no wrongdoing.
Tonight, 7 investigator Ross Jones continues his deep dive into this concerning alleged pattern of behavior.
And brings us part 2 of his investigation.
He seems to be a frequent flyer.
Attorney David Robinson is talking about Sergeant Stephen Koo. As we reported last week, the 12-year veteran of the Detroit Police Department has amassed more complaints against him than almost any other officer on the force.
He a gangster with a badge. I've been called by him. I've been called a by him.
In his 12 years with the department, Koo has been among its most sued officers too, amassing at least 8 lawsuits filed against him, costing taxpayers to defend and often settle. The cases run the gamut, from alleged assault and battery to deprivation of civil rights to gross negligence. In each of the lawsuits, Koo was just one of several DPD officers named.
He was trying to antagonize me.
In October 2016, Terry Parnell was at his mother's home when Koo and his partner showed up in the front yard. Parnell said he had a legally purchased and registered handgun, and when the officers arrived, he took it out and placed it on the front porch, and they took him to the ground.
Tried to give them my paperwork. They didn't want to receive it. Handcuffed me, took me in, booked me.
Citizen can have a gun on their own private property.
Parnell sued DPD for wrongful arrest. He settled the case and a separate lawsuit against the department where Koo was not a defendant for $375,000. The city.
Shout out to Poker Villain. What up with it, Poker Villain? Hey, if you're on Twitch, you should come over to YouTube. There's more people in the chat. So if you have a YouTube account, just come and find Blacklight Revelations on YouTube and come over here. What do you guys think about this? This is a different video than the one that I usually show about this guy. This is a different video than the one that I usually show about him.
He admitted no wrongdoing.
They job is to protect and serve, not abuse.
Lisa Ingram and her family say they were in their driveway when Officer Koo and his partners arrived to conduct a raid on their neighbor's home.
So you had nothing to do with the raid?
No.
You just lived next to the raid?
Right.
Still, they say they were handcuffed and detained as if they were the target.
They had guns to our head, tell us to get on the ground, shut the up. We ain't, got no right to talk, any of that.
The family sued. The city settled, again admitting no wrongdoing for $130,000. To date, the city has paid out more than $800,000 in cases where Koo was a defendant.
And they jumped out cussing, and people took off running.
And today, the city is defending a lawsuit filed by Mark Gaddis. On the night of July 21st, 2017, he and members of his family were gathering out on the front lawn of his aunt's home in Detroit when a dark car pulled up.
They really just heard the car, and instantly a few people started running. So instantly my reaction was to run. As soon as I started running, I heard somebody say, I'm gonna shoot you. I'm gonna shoot you. So I really started running fast then.
The men were cops, including Officer Koo, but Gaddis said that wasn't clear at first. It was dark. They were in a semi-marked DPD vehicle and their headlights were off.
Oh, I found a good video. So keep all of this in mind, right? Because there's even more about this guy. All right. There's even more about this guy.
The officers briefly apprehended Gaddis, according to the complaint, kicking him and beating him before Gaddis broke free. At that point, he was shot twice, once in the buttocks and again in the back of his ankle. Officers said Gaddis...
See, this is new stuff because in the last time we talked about this guy, Stephen Q, this video wasn't around yet. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? This video wasn't around yet.
Gaddis had a gun in his hand and tried to use it. He was taken to the hospital in temporary serious condition.
I woke up in the room. They just kept trying to make me say I had a gun. And just trying to...
It's in Michigan, Tark.
And that's what happened that night,
Gaddis would be charged with 11 felonies, including assaulting a police officer.
Did you have a gun that night?
No, sir.
Detroit police investigated the shooting, ruling it justified.
How is it ruled justified? Now, I want you guys to pay attention to the record because what you guys have seen right here is nothing. This is nothing.
During trial, multiple officers said they saw Gaddis with a firearm, and Koo said he raised it.
All right. Now, check this out. Okay. We about to get deep into this. Now, this is the one that my long-term, my people that have been around for a minute, this is the video that you guys know about.
For months, the 7 investigators have been digging into some of the Detroit Police Department's most troubled officers.
And tonight, our first report is on a cop who's been accused of misconduct at an alarming level. Since he joined the force, Officer Stephen Koo has repeatedly been accused of excessive force and using hostile and racist language. He's also accused of harassing people of color who say their biggest crime was being in the wrong place.
So now here's the question, right? In that article, it just asked, well, why would people bring up race? Why would people bring up race? Why would people bring up race? Let me ask you guys a question. Everything that you heard about this particular guy so far, and as you can see, he's Asian. Why would we bring up race?
At the wrong time.
7 investigator Ross Jones joins us now with what he's learned.
It's a story you'll see only here on 7.
Being myself an African American, I don't put much stock.
So now that gives you, now check this out, right? Again, remember, when it comes to the news, you got to watch the news for what they're not showing. The fact that this is a quote unquote exclusive story on 7, are you really getting the bonus? Because this is the kind of story that would help you if it was a nationwide story. But you're getting the exclusive only on 7, which means that people outside of that that news district, as well as people in other states, aren't hearing about it, but you get the exclusive. You see how they make that sound like a bonus for you?
Into the police force anymore.
There was a time when Jay Brown dreamt of becoming a Detroit cop, but that changed the day he came face to face with one.
Started opening my door to step out of my vehicle, and that's when the cop car came blazing up on me.
In broad daylight in September of 2015, Brown was pulling up to a rental property he helped manage near Fenkel and Greenfield when he says Officer Stephen Koo pulled up to him.
He told me not to move, asked me where the drugs are. Are there drugs in my vehicle? Are there drugs in the house that I'm approaching? What am I doing here? And I said, no, sir, I do not know what's going on. I'm just here to check on some rental property.
Nearly the whole time, he said Koo's gun was trained on his chest.
Still holding a gun on you after 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and I'm asking.
So now Poker Villain says all races have racists. That's not true. Second of all, it says all racial profiling is done by all races. In most cases, black people, black police officers, because of the white supremacist police force, are the only ones in many cases who racially profile other black people. In LA, where they have the Latino gangs, the executioners and the banditos, the executioners and the banditos do the same thing to black and Latino people. I've never seen white people racially profiling white people for anything other than innocence. White people racially profile black people. Where's an instance of police officers racially profiling races of people other than black people? I don't think that white police officers who are hillbillies racially profile hillbillies. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how do they do that? How do you racially profile a hillbilly when you're a hillbilly? How do you do that? What's an example of that happening? What are the names and what places did this happen at? And how and what's the evidence that it was racially profiling? Because hillbilly's not a race. Poker Villain says, are you saying there's a race that has no person in it that isn't racist? What I'm saying is that a race of people cannot exercise racism if they don't have the power dynamics to be able to do it. Racism isn't just calling somebody the N-word. Just because that's what's comfortable for white people to understand it as doesn't mean that that's the definition of it. If you're racially profiling, you're profiling more than one individual. You're profiling by race. And then you have to ask, where did the individual who's doing the profiling get the idea to profile that race? So when it comes to racial profiling, the fact that you're profiling an entire race takes away the individual element of it. Because the reason someone would racially profile is because of what their culture has shown them or taught them, whether true or false, about other people. No, we're talking about what the police do. We're talking about what the police do. You're seeing it on this. So this police officer has about 90 instances of racial profiling. What I need you to do is I need you to show me an instance where a black police officer has a record of racially profiling white people like that. We're not talking about two different things. I'm talking about something that actually exists. You're talking about something that you want to exist that doesn't. Give me the name of the black police officer who's known to terrorize the suburbs, racially profiling and pulling over white teenagers. Give me his name, because that guy would be famous or dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, simply show me the guy's name. Tell me who he is. I'll look him up and we can watch the story together. Because of technology, you know what I'm saying? Sean says this is why all this talking with non-blacks is a waste of time. They do not live the way we do, and there are no black cops roaming around attacking whites. Now, you know the thing that's crazy. The problem, I agree with you, Sean, but the thing is that there's a lot of black people that talk like that too. There are literally black people live right now, literally saying more white supremacist talking points than white people. Yeah, I agree, PD. Ain't no black officer that would try it, and whatever community he was in, if it was predominantly non-black, they wouldn't tolerate it. TD says his name is Rob from Akron, Ohio. Shout out to my man TD. What up with it, bro? What's good? Is it possible for a black cop to be racist? It's not possible for black people, period, to be racist. So if it's a black cop, it's impossible for that black cop to be racist. Where's an instance of a black cop beating up a white kid saying, "You cracker jackass cracker, I'm finna whoop your ass"? I know it isn't it amazing that there's no instances of that happening? Show me where that happened. Show me where a white cop said, "You Becky ass bitch, you're gonna suck this nightstick like you did at the club that night if you don't get your ass in the back of this police car." Show me the instance of that. You see how they had the body cam of these police officers saying, "I'm gonna beat your ass"? Show me that shit. I know, and it is amazing. It's extremely amazing that white people act like that, and there's not instances of black people doing that. Show me an instance of a black cop saying, "I'm gonna beat your ass with this club like you Neanderthals used to." Show me where that's at. Show me an example of a black. Show me an example of a black civilian who used to work for the police beating a white person up to death or shooting them, and then calling the DA and asking for advice, and that DA not arresting that person on the scene after the murder. Show me an example of that. It's not amazing. There's literally nothing amazing about that. What's amazing is that you're not in a straitjacket.
And you pleading with you, "Can you please lower your weapon?"
He said Koo used profanity and was demeaning, that he searched his vehicle but found no drugs or stolen weapons. And before Koo left, according to the complaint, he wrote him a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt and then said this.
He just said, "He's just another stupid."
Do you have any doubt at all that he used the N-word?
I have.
Val said, "Rob, you sound like you're having too much fun saying derogatory words." Of course, for educational purposes. You know what I'm saying? And commentary. Fair use, fair use.
No doubt in my mind that he used the N-word. If you feel that strongly about the color of my skin, you probably shouldn't be an officer in the city of Detroit.
Jay filed a citizen's complaint against Officer Koo, seen here on Facebook, that included allegations he used racist language and unnecessary force.
Show me the instance of a black officer. You know, did Muhammad Noor say anything racist to that white lady that ended up dying as a result of his interaction with her? How come you never hear about that? As much as they love Ashley Babbitt, that police officer didn't even say nothing racist to her. TD said, I will put Becky ass bitch on the soundboard. That's funny as hell. That's funny as hell. It's so hilarious, man, how white people just expect to say something and they think that just because they said it and they feel it, first and foremost, that anybody's actually supposed to give a ounce of horse manure about their feelings. And second of all, that just because it came out of their mouth, it's supposed to be true. That's not how shit works. You have to show advice and evidence. So you mean to tell me a black police officer can't be racist? Yeah. And here's the evidence. There's never been a case like the Ahmaud Arbery case where a civilian who used to work for the police had vertical integration into the police force to where he was able to use the DA to not get arrested at the scene of a murder. Where's an example of a black person bodying a white person and calling somebody in the government to get them off to where they didn't get arrested at the scene? That is systemic racism, because that is racism built into the system where a civilian had an inside track to somebody in the government that was an agent of the court who was able to supersede the law of them getting arrested for suspect of murder at the time. Are you serious? If you can't show me an example of that, then you can't substantiate your claim of a black police officer being racist. Are you serious? The fact that these black police officers, these five, the black five, are getting treated the way that they've been treated, that's proof that there's race, that they can't be racist. Even if they have self-hate, the self-hate doesn't even supersede their racism because they're still getting punished faster than a white person would. All of this, well, black people this too, and no white people. You know what I'm saying? Like racism and monkeypox is you guys' thing. You guys want to say that we're dumb and criminals? Monkeypox and racism is all yours. You know what I'm saying?
Koo denied both. It was hardly the first time he'd been accused. The average uniformed officer in Detroit has received just over 8 citizen complaints, according to DPD data. Some go their entire career without receiving one. But Stephen Koo, in his 12 years on the force, has received 85. We could not find any officer who's amassed that many that quickly. And for Koo, virtually every complaint against him where race is listed, he's lodged by...
No, it's actually not, RG Titan. It's actually a strategy. It's a strategy of attempted mental conditioning. Because what they're doing by saying that you are racist, they're attempting to say that we're equal. If we're racist, then that means that systemic racism doesn't exist. And that's the reason why the new thing is that white people will just continue to repeatedly call black people racist, to, like Neely Fuller Jr. said in the Maximum Sophisticated Confusion speech, it'll have black people questioning if racism still exists or not. We can't be racist. We still got a racial wealth gap. We still got a racial housing gap. We still got a racial employment gap. As long as all of those gaps exist, there's no possible way that we can be racist because we can't exert any power. But if white people continue to call you racist and you start to actually believe it, because one of the things that they do is just repeat, which is why they had a mainstream media saying the same thing each time. That's part of conditioning. That's brain conditioning. It's brainwashing. You know what I'm saying? So that's why that guy will say, oh, it's amazing. You don't think that this black police officer can be racist? It's not amazing. You want me to believe something that doesn't exist without evidence. This isn't church. We don't do that here. That's what you do at a church. You believe something without evidence. Not here. Here you need evidence.
By a person of color.
It's somewhat of a concerning pattern. simply because you would probably want to see a mix of different races that we're talking about.
They rolled the window down and they asked us, do we have any guns or drugs on us?
DeAndre Reed and his brother were standing outside on the street where they live when Officer Koo and his partner pulled up.
We said no. They told us to lift up our shirts and do a complete circle so they could see our waistband. We complied.
He said Koo handcuffed him, searched him, then saw that DeAndre had an outstanding traffic warrant. It was then, according to the complaint, that Koo said this.
Thank my dumb brother that I'm going to jail.
He used that word.
Yes. He said it like that's something that he always says.
Now show me some complaints of white people talking about a black police officer pulled them over and said, "Yo, white privilege, crackerjack ass, cracker ass." Like, show me evidence of that. Show me a police report or an expose on a black police precinct where they just went around terrorizing white people, calling them crackerjack ass crackers. Show it to me. Now, there's plenty of body cam videos of white people saying racist stuff about black people. There was the one time in Atlanta, the old white guy was saying, yeah, we need to put black people back in chains, which I wish somebody would try. They like hanging people so much, you be hanging from that chain. But yeah, somebody said that. You know what I'm saying? So where are these instances of this happening? And again, remember, any term that anybody might construe as derogatory is only used here for commentary and educational purposes. For examples, fair use, fair use.
He was very confident in saying it.
And Reed's neighbor was a witness.
And he was like, this is because of your brother. And I was like, whoa, man, hold on, wait a minute.
Reed was jailed and then released. After he filed a complaint against Koo with the city's Office of Chief Investigator. Reed and 3 witnesses said Koo used the N-word. The only person who didn't was Koo. The complaint was sustained, but Koo appealed and with no reason documented, his commanding officer later dismissed the charge. Even today, DPD couldn't tell us why.
We take it very seriously, and we have disciplined members of the department strenuously when using that type of language, especially with citizens.
Not him, though.
Not in 2015, apparently. However, I can't state with confidence what occurred at that hearing.
Look, this is some true examples of I'm white and I say so. Watch this dude right here.
DPD couldn't tell us why.
We take it very seriously, and we have disciplined members of the department strenuously when using that type of language, especially with citizens.
Not him, though.
Not in 2015, apparently. However, I can't state with confidence what occurred at that hearing when he appealed it.
Chris Gravlin is DPD's
He said we take this very serious, so serious that I have no idea what's going on right now.
Director of Professional Standards. He joined the department in 2019 and said until he arrived, sustained complaints against officers were regularly dismissed without a reason documented. He says since Koo joined the force, he's been flagged at...
Hey, so do this... So do this sound like police reform? If this sounds like police reform, give me a thumbs up. If it doesn't sound like police reform, give me a thumbs down. You know what I'm saying? They really doing it out here, ain't they? They really cleaning the precincts up, ain't they?
At least 12 times when civilian complaints pop up and counseled by a superior.
For you to say stuff like that, you just know that your best intentions is not to protect people like me. You don't like people like me.
More alarming than the number of complaints against Koo is how consistent many of them are. He has been accused repeatedly by people of color of harassing them, of using the same demeaning language, and at least 8 times of using or threatening to use excessive force.
He a gangster with a badge. I'm 38 years old. I ain't never seen no evil like that.
Corey Collins said he was leaving his grandmother's house when Koo and his partner pulled up.
They asked me, can they search me? I said, no, I haven't did nothing, you know.
According to Collins' complaint, the two men traded insults before Koo cuffed him and then said,
"My trigger finger is itching. I dare you to move. I dare you to move."
What does that mean to you?
Blow my head off.
Collins was later released, not charged with anything. He filed a complaint against Koo, alleging he threatened his life. Koo denied making any threats. The complaint was not sustained.
I never had no police threaten my life. He threatened.
So now here go the question: do they do they ever sustain any of these complaints? Do they ever sustain any of them? Do any of them ever get sustained at all? Ever? Now, again, like I said, as far as racism goes, racism would be black police terrorizing a white community also, right? Where are black police terrorizing white communities at? See, like, white people want to define what racism is. Well, racism is when we call you the N-word, and that's just it. And anybody can use the N-word. See, this person called me a cracker. They said that I was pale. They said that I was translucent. That's being a racist. See, you're being a racist. No, it doesn't work that way. Where are black cops terrorizing white communities? Racism is a multifaceted thing. For the white people who don't understand that racism is a multifaceted thing, there's never been a law against using the N-word, but there are pages and pages of Jim Crow and black codes, which means that racism is more complicated than you forming your mouth to say the N-word. These are the people that allegedly have such a high IQ. Either that or dementia, because the people that have benefited from and created all of this tend to enjoy antagonizing the people who are victims of it by acting as if they have no idea how it works. Don't fall for it, okay?
In my life.
A finding of not sustained doesn't mean the allegation didn't happen, but there wasn't enough evidence to prove it either way. It's the most common outcome for citizen complaints, and it's the same outcome Jay Brown received when he said Koo called him the N-word and used excessive force.
They pay no attention to any of this.
Oh, man. Yo, I got a question for y'all. We're doing a survey. I need all 77 people in here to participate. If you all think that TD has his Ethernet cord plugged in right now, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that TD has his Ethernet cord plugged in, give me a thumbs down.
Officers' patterns of practice, despite the remarkable similarity between all of these people's complaints.
Julie Hurwitz is a civil rights attorney currently suing Koo in federal court on behalf of a Detroit man Koo and his partners arrested. She has reviewed his lengthy list of citizen complaints.
Shout out to my homie Jay Bird. Jay Bird not only said TD don't have the Jay Bird not only said TD don't have the Ethernet cord plugged in, but he said TD's new mic sounds like shit. He said, yeah, that $1,000 mic you just bought, man, that sounds like shit.
Dating back more than a decade.
What the heck is going on here? Why is this man still a police officer?
In 2018, Koo faced his harshest punishment yet, following his role in a drug raid where a dog was shot and killed. When Internal Affairs investigated...
Yeah, so just so y'all know, when people be saying these people care more about the dogs than they care about you, the only complaint that was sustained was when this motherfucker shot a dog. Now, y'all laughing, right? See, that's why TD said when Rob say, I'm not being funny, I'm actually not being funny. I'm actually telling the truth. The only thing this motherfucker got in trouble for was shooting a damn dog.
More than a decade.
What the heck is going on here? Why is this man still a police officer?
In 2018, Koo faced his harshest punishment yet, following his role in a drug raid where a dog was shot and killed. When Internal Affairs investigated...
There you go. And then he lied, and he got caught up for lying. I didn't shoot the animal, but I did shoot the dog, though. Like, what?
Koo said he never fired at the dog, but ballistics later found a bullet casing from his gun.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a true story. This is why they see, and I'm telling you, pay attention to the media. You know what I'm saying? This is the truth. This is why they said this is exclusive to Channel 7, because they don't want this getting out nationwide. So we only gonna show this to Detroit, and we're gonna make you feel like you got something special. The whole nation need to know about this shit. You know what I'm saying?
When confronted, he changed his story and told investigators he forgot.
How does an officer say with a straight face that they forgot?
There you go. So again, that also substantiates something else that I said. When it comes to when they do something, they don't know. Jay Bird said, "You're gonna get my membership canceled with TD." I'm not gonna get your membership canceled. You ain't emptied your bank account on no super chats over here. Don't blame that on me. It'd be different if you had emptied your bank account on the super chats over here and you didn't have no money when it renewed the membership, but you didn't do that, Jay Bird. You ain't do that, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Don't put that on me.
How does an officer say with a straight face that they forgot shooting their gun?
That is what we want to be getting to at the bottom of any investigation.
Koo and other officers were deemed untruthful. The entire drug case was dismissed, and the disciplinary sergeant recommended Koo be terminated. But instead of doling out any punishment at all, his commanding officer dismissed the entire case for timeliness, saying it had dragged on.
So isn't that what happened to Officer Howley? PD Chicago B1 said, "I can't wait to see the world is correct moment." Yeah, the world is correct moment has been going on since Let There Be Light.
For too long.
Now I'd like to make a motion to approve the promotions to the rank of sergeant.
Just 3 months later.
There you go. There go world is correct moment. You see all them black people at that table there that wanted to promote him to the ranks of sergeant? You see that right there? There go the world is correct right there. That's the world is correct tablecloth right there.
Approve the promotions to the rank of sergeant.
So they promoted this motherfucker after all these damn complaints, and then after shooting the dog and lying about shooting the dog. Oh, TD did you dirty, Jay. You see what TD did? He said he blocked you.
But instead of doling out any punishment at all, his commanding officer dismissed the entire case for timeliness, saying it had dragged on for too long.
Shout out to Jay Bird, man. Make sure y'all show some love. Throw some radiation emoji in the chat from my man Jay Bird. He said, TD, the money gone, fam. The money gone.
Now I'd like to make a motion to approve the promotions to the rank of sergeant.
Just 3 months later, after a recommendation.
Yeah, so you see, again, I want y'all to look at the composition here. This is a majority black board of police commissioners, and they are so ecstatic about Officer Stephen Q that they promoted him after all of this drama he got that he come with. You know what I'm saying? That's the world is correct moment right there, PD Chicago B1. That's it. There it is right there. Whoop, there it is.
To the rank of sergeant.
Just 3 months later, after a recommendation to fire him.
Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Stephen Koo was promoted from officer to sergeant. When I reached him by phone this month, he declined comment for this report. Today, as a result of this story, DPD says they're considering reassigning him.
Based upon your questions, Interim Chief White is aware of and taking a look at all of his options right now with Sergeant Q, and
they're looking at reassigning him. So you get all of this going on, and that's what happens. You get reassigned. You know what I'm saying?
How best to utilize him, given some of the things that you've raised in this report.
How best to utilize him? He would do great as a decoration inside of a jail cell, but that's not what they're thinking about utilizing him for, though.
Is aware of and taking a look at all of his options right now with Sergeant Q and how best to utilize him.
How best to utilize this guy. How best to utilize him. Yeah, he'd probably be best utilized in the unemployment office, but
given some of the things that you've raised in this report.
Those already familiar with coup wonder why it didn't happen much sooner.
Should he be a cop today?
Absolutely not. No, he should not be a Detroit police officer.
He should not be an officer of any police department.
We did reach out to the Detroit Police Officers Association and the Lieutenants and Sergeants Association, which have both represented Sergeant Koo throughout his career. Neither returned our call. I'm Ross Jones, 7 Action News.
So now, what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? And that's a fact, Lois, guys. Power doesn't destroy its pawns, it repurposes them. Facts. So yeah, so this is what they're talking about, right? They're sitting up here talking about and encouraging citizens to file complaints. After what you guys just saw, as a citizen, would you file complaints? I wouldn't, because clearly it's a waste of time. Nothing's going to happen. If anything, they get promoted. If we want them off the force and the more complaints they get promoted, why am I going to continue to keep filing complaints? You know what I'm saying? And now here it says the world is watching us. Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy said, if there is any silver lining to be drawn from this very dark cloud, it's that perhaps this incident can open a broader conversation about the need for police reform. I mean, how many conversations about police reform are we going to have? That's the damn question. How many conversations about police reform are we going to need to have? I think that we need to be ending our conversations about police reform, and I think it's time for us to have conversations amongst ourselves about dealing with the police. Because clearly nobody's listening but us to each other. So then that's where we need to start having the conversations, because that's who's going to be the ones to fix it. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says President Joe Biden joined the national civil rights leaders in a similar call to action. I hope they're not talking about that Zoom call, because the Zoom call that he was on with the civil rights leaders was a call to inaction. You know what I'm saying? To deliver real change, we must have accountability when law enforcement officers violate their oaths. And we need to build lasting trust between law enforcement and the majority of whom wear the badge honorably and the communities they are sworn to serve and protect, the president said. So now here it says, but Memphis, whose 628,000 residents celebrate barbecue and blues music and lament being the place where Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, has seen this before. The city took steps to advocate for a regimen policing initiative in 2021. So when they say the city took steps, advocates called for a regimen policing initiative in 2021, what that basically means is that it's something that they tried, but it didn't work. De-escalation training is now required. Officers are told to limit uses of forces, exhaust all alternatives before resorting to deadly force, and report all uses of force. What's the difference between this and how things originally were? I mean, that's always been policy. That's always been the policy. Nothing about this is anything different. Also, what they're doing is they're calling police reform following existing rules. Oh, we're going to reform the police. Oh, you basically mean you're going to follow the rules that you already been supposed to have been following? That's not police reform. You know what I'm saying? Tennessee also took action. State law now requires officers to intervene and stop abuse and report excessive force by their colleagues. How many officer reports of excessive force have there been since this law was put into place? Yeah, barbecues and blues. That's all we need. You know, that's all we need. Barbecues and blues. That sounds like a name of a restaurant. I bet you they got a good pulled pork sandwich. You know what I'm saying? Showing unusual transparency for a police department, the MPD now publishes accountability reports that include the race of people subjected to use of force each year. They show Black men and women are overwhelmingly targeted for rougher treatment in 2019, 20, and 21. They were subject to nearly 86% of the recorded use of guns, batons, pepper spray, physical beatings, and other force in 2021. The total nearly doubling that year to 1,700 cases. 7 uses of force by Memphis police ended in death during these 3 years. Okay. I don't know how much more cumulative Black death our community should have to pay to convince elected officials that the policing system isn't broken. It's working exactly as it was designed to at the expense of Black life, said Ashley Woodard Henderson, co-executive director of the Highland Research and Education Center, a Tennessee-based civil rights leadership training school. The Nichols case, just one of the brutality cases to make national news this month, exposes an uncomfortable truth. More than 2 years since the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Rashard Brooks touched off protests, policing reforms have not significantly reduced such killings. There haven't been any policing reforms. They keep repeating that there's been policing reforms, but there haven't been any. How many people have worked at a company that has went through a reorganization? If you've been at a company, if you've had a job and that job had a reorganization or a downsizing, give me a thumbs up. Everybody knows what a company reorganization looks like. Everybody knows what a downsizing looks like, right? If you're a professional and you work at a company and you've been at that company for a long time, then you've probably experienced at some point a reorganization, a buyout, or a downsizing. What happens during that? A lot of things change. Your uniform might change. The company name might change. The logo might change. You might get some new policies and procedures. Maybe 2 companies are joining together. Maybe you're getting bought out. Maybe 50% of the line work is getting cut. Have there been any changes to the police that look anything like the reorganization or downsizing that you've seen at your job? If that hasn't happened, then that means that it hasn't happened. There has been no change in anything with the police. Everybody's seen what change looks like at work. Okay, instead of working 40-hour work weeks, you guys are going to be working 25-hour work weeks. Instead of 85% productivity, we're now expecting 90%. We haven't seen any changes like that with the police, which means that they haven't happened, which means that reform hasn't happened. When a company reforms, they usually get a consultant, and a consultant looks at their processes and says, this is efficient, that's efficient, this isn't efficient, this isn't efficient. How many people are familiar with ISO and Black Belt, Six Sigma, things like that? If you guys are familiar with those things, give me a thumbs up. If you're not familiar with those things, give me a thumbs down. Who's familiar with total quality management and quality control? What kind of quality control measures have the police put in force to make sure that certain incidents don't happen? Do they have any risk management? No. There's no evidence that anything has been put in place anywhere to make any process changes with the way that the police are. The only thing that there's evidence of are a bunch of articles talking about it with no action behind it. That's it. And the reason why there's no action behind it is because as soon as somebody gets killed, the first thing they beg the family to say is, please make sure that there's no action. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says states approved nearly 300 police reform bills after Floyd's murder, creating civilian oversight of police, more anti-bias training, stricter use of force limits, and alternatives to arrests in cases involving people with mental illnesses, because I don't know if you guys are aware, but if we take race out of the equation and look at other factors, people with mental illness have a high percentage of getting killed in their encounters with police. Were you guys aware of that? If you take race out of the instance of police violence, people with mental illnesses in most cases do not survive encounters with police. But people don't talk about that. And when they delete somebody with a mental illness, they don't get in trouble for it. It's just business as usual. You know what I'm saying? According to a recent analysis by the Howard Center for Investigative Journalism at the University of Maryland, despite calls to defund the police, an Associated Press review of police funding nationwide found only modest cuts driven largely by shrinking revenue related to the C-19 pandemic. Budgets increased and more officers were hired for some large departments, including New York City's. Still stuck in Congress is the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which would prohibit racial profiling. How do you prohibit racial profiling? Ban chokeholds and no-knock warrants, limit the transfer of military equipment to police department, which now they're giving military equipment to police departments and making it easier to bring charges against offending officers. Biden said he told Nichols' mother that he would be making the case to Congress to pass the Floyd Act to get this under control. What that basically means is that nothing's going to happen, because if Biden wanted to do something, he would sign it directly in. Nothing's going to happen. He shouldn't even came. He shouldn't even spoke to Nichols' mom. This is a disgrace. He's blowing smoke. You know what I'm saying? He blowing big smoke. So now here it says the Reverend Al Sharpton said his eulogy at Nichols' funeral on Wednesday will include a call for new laws. NAACP President Derek Jackson. Man, with a name like that, you know he's a simp. Also took Congress to task. By failing to write a piece of legislation, you were writing another obituary, Johnson said. Is it Derek Johnson or Derek? Oh, it's Derek Johnson. I thought it said Derek Jackson. I was about to say Derek Johnson. You know he ain't about to do nothing. By failing to write a piece of legislation, you're writing another obituary, Johnson said. Tell us what you're going to do to honor Tyre Nichols. We can name all of the victims of police violence, but we can't name a single law you have passed to address it. So again, they're literally sitting up here talking about all this legislation that's passed, and then down here they're saying that no legislation has been passed. They can't name a damn law. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Al, pencil neck. You know what I'm saying? Sitting up there looking like a Pez dispenser. Y'all remember them Pez dispensers where the candy come out under the neck? That's what Al Sharpton looked like. But with a suit on. You know what I'm saying? If you ever go to a haunted house, you know what I'm saying, this Halloween coming up, make sure you tell them to put an Al Sharpton in a casket display. So you can just have Al Sharpton laying there looking like somebody just shot him up with embalming fluid, and they can have a bunch of strings attached to him, and he can hop out of the casket and dance. You know what I'm saying? Like a damn ventriloquist. Because his ass be looking like a damn ventriloquist puppet sometimes. You know what I'm saying? His old weird ass. You know what I'm saying? Man, if they ever make another Blackula movie, they got to get Al Sharpton to play it. Because Al Sharpton looked more like Blackula than Eddie Murphy did when he played that. What was that, The Vampire in New York or something like that? Because that's all he is a blood sucker. You know what I'm saying? Advocates want state and federal legislation because local changes vary widely in scope and effect can be undone by a single election after years of grassroots activism. But some say strict regulations are just the start, and the video of Nichols' agony proves it. No, the agony doesn't prove anything. The repeated amount of these things happening and the way that this is being treated proves it, not a video of a black person dying. We see that all the time. And the reason why we see it is because they want to bombard us with those images. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker said black folks gotta correct you on hood classic names. June is a hood classic name. That's how you could actually tell if somebody is for real, FBA or ADOS or something like that. Ask them, do you got somebody in your family named June? If you ain't got somebody in your family named June, you know what I'm saying? That's sus. That's for real sus. Everybody got somebody in their family named June. Sometimes more than one. You know what I'm saying? Or Pooh. Or Junebug. Yeah, facts. Yeah, Junebug. Junebug. You know, June is short for Junebug. You know what I'm saying? You know how that shit go. For real. That's their real shit. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got somebody at the family reunion named June. Hey, June, get your ass over here. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says changing a rule doesn't change behavior. Blah, blah, blah. Man, listen, this basically is the same thing as that New York Post article that we read. Not asking any of the questions that we need to know the answer to. My granny called Junebug. Yeah. Yeah, we be having women in our families with men names. You know what I'm saying? I had Aunt Bobby. I had Aunt Leo. You know what I'm saying? Lily Mae. Shit like that. Yeah, Willie Lee. That's that shit right there, Carlton. You know what I'm saying? My grandmother that passed away, her name was Ollie Mae. That's some real shit right there. You know what I'm saying? If your grandparents' names don't sound like some place that sells student loans, you might not be FBA. I don't know what these motherfuckers be talking about, but I'm telling you the real shit. If you ain't got somebody in your family that sound like Fannie Mae, you know what I'm saying? Or Hattie Mae or some shit like that, you sus. My father, look, it's like 3 motherfuckers in my family that's nicknamed June. My dad nicknamed June. I got a cousin named Junie. You know what I'm saying? And we all be at the same place, and it don't matter who it is, they know which June they getting talked to. You know what I'm saying? When somebody say June and they talking to my dad, he know. When somebody say June and they talking to my cousin Junie, he know. Sometimes if my dad ain't there, they just call me June because I look like my dad and shit. And I don't know how I be knowing, but I know. Oh, you talking to me. Neither of these other 2 niggas is here. You know what I'm saying? That shit crazy. You know what I'm saying? Is it anybody alive now that still got them kind of names like that? Like Ollie Mae and Emma Lou. You know what I'm saying? Hattie. Shit like that. Hazel. Anybody out there that got them kind of names that's alive anymore? You know what I'm saying? Emma Lou. You know what I'm saying? That's hilarious. Yeah, everybody got a June, Shatera. Everybody got a June. Or a Red. Me and Bronze was talking about this the other day. Or Red. You know what I'm saying? Somebody got a Red in their family. I got an aunt named Matey. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna find no shit like that anywhere else. Just talking ish said I went to school with a girl named Emma Jean. Oh wow. Damn. How if you don't mind me asking, just talking, how old are you? Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker said, I got a cousin named Phyllis and one named Mary Giola. Oh, wow. My aunt had so many kids, she renamed the last one after herself. I know Giola is a terrible name. That it ain't a terrible name. It's just that's just some real shit right there. Like Giola, like she sound like she know how to cook all kind of collard greens and shit. You know what I'm saying? She sound like she cooked every single thing from scratch, like literally every single thing. That's them kind of cooking names right there. She cooked motherfucking okra. You know what I'm saying? From scratch. You know what I'm saying? She cooked jambalaya for like literally any crazy ass FBA shit. She one of them motherfuckers that put like 10 different cheeses in macaroni and cheese. And you got to get a snow shovel to get that shit out of the pan. It's so damn thick. That's what that name sound like. Gertie. That's real. Gertie. Yeah, okra and hog mogs. Facts. Collard greens, mushrooms, okra, man, lima beans, bruh. Yeah, that's that real. See, man, I'm telling you, people need to franchise a FBA restaurant. Yeah, we got another resident troll in the building. You late? We live on the table. We live on the table. Said mayo on food is disgusting. Mayo in explanations is disgusting too. You know what I'm saying? That shit is disgusting. You know what I'm saying? If you take the mayo out of explanations, you know what I'm saying? Maybe people can get some shit accomplished. PD Chicago B1 says my great aunt name was Gertie. Yeah. That's them real names, man. Because like those are those names that came from the South. You know what I'm saying? And that right there is how you know. It's a lot of FBA people in the Midwest. You know what I'm saying? Like in Detroit, the Steel Belt area. You know what I'm saying? Buffalo, shit like that. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Wisconsin. You know what I'm saying? Try Eunice on for size. Lloyd Sky said mayo and coleslaw. No, that Bobby Joe. Yep, facts. Fayetta. Y'all, do y'all know any twins named Viley and Viola? Viley and Viola. That's back in the day when people would be like the third or fourth, fifth, junior, senior. You know what I'm saying? See, like that's something that's unique. People should celebrate that. They left the South and moved to the Midwest. Yeah, that's facts. That's why you got all them people in the Midwest that's named June and shit like that, because they came from the South. June bug. You know what I'm saying? That's either a pimp name or your cousin name. One of the two. You know what I'm saying? Man, that's hilarious. Y'all crazy. I had an uncle, Billy Earl. Oh, bread pudding. Man, that's real, Cyber. Man, I like banana pudding with the Nilla wafers. Bruh. The name Lucius runs in my family and Wesley. Lucius, that's one of them gangster names. That's like a light-skinned S-curl having ass nigga with a gangster name. Like anytime I hear Lucius, the only nigga that I ever think of is Terrence Howard. Or a Billy D. Williams looking motherfucker. Nigga, I'm Lucius. Oh, hustle and flow looking motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, of course. Yeah, they red bones. You know what I'm saying? With the hair slicked back, looking like Smokey Robinson and shit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna be dark skinned named Lucius. That's a old yellow ass name. And it can't just be like no regular yellow nigga. Like it's gotta be one of them yellow ass niggas with the Chico DeBarge motherfucking Shamar Moore looking ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? Oh, genuine Cash Money Crew looking motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Fury said my granny was a red bone. Country red bones are crazy. Yeah. Oh man, all red bones is crazy. They know they crazy too. Like don't be calling me crazy. You're crazy. Stop it. You know what I'm saying? Come on now. That's just something we all know. Like stop. It's all good. Ain't nobody say you was bad. Ain't nobody say anything. Ain't nobody say anything was wrong with you. Something would be wrong with you if your ass wasn't crazy. Oh shit, man. That's hilarious. Y'all crazy, man. Y'all got me just sitting up here talking shit. Now I'm supposed to be just talking with TD. You know what I'm saying? Not just talking with y'all. I'm supposed to actually be doing some news and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But we done. I think y'all got the point. You know what I'm saying? So, ladies and gentlemen, players and pimps, we've been live for like 4 hours. This is that shit that Torian be talking about. I think Rob be over there doing the marathon streams and shit. You know what I'm saying? But I think we had a good time and I think we enjoyed ourselves. So I hope you guys did. We got some more content coming for you. You know what I'm saying? I got another stream planned tonight at 12:55 a.m. Eastern time. So I hope you all check that out. All right. Make sure you guys check out some of the other content. If you guys are not subscribed to my backup channels, make sure you guys check out the backup channels. If you haven't hit the like button yet, hit that like button and I will catch you all on the next video. All right. Pete, look at that. Look, hold on real quick. See, I almost said peace, but here go TD right at the last minute. I didn't enjoy myself at all. Look, unsubscribe. He about to start he about to start spamming the chat. Unsubscribe. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate each and every one of y'all, man. We at 3K. Y'all will see the y'all will see a thumbnail pop up on your screen eventually. We're gonna do a 3K stream, and in that 3K stream, I promise we'll do some call-ins. I didn't get a chance to do any call-ins this time because you know what I'm saying, we just started talking crazy. You know what I'm saying? But we'll do some next time for sure. All right. So be on the lookout for that. And remember, always after the streams, just hang around for about 60 seconds and it'll take you right into the next stream. You can hit that window, hit that like button already. All right. Peace.